Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome everybody to the Mindful Approach podcast. I like to call it the map. I feel like it's a good trajectory. Get it? Ding. I'm your host, Core. I think we have an awesome episode planned for today. But before I get into that, I had a quick little rundown I did of this week's news and shenanigans as far as everything that goes. And then I did my word of the day. I pre-recorded those things so you people wouldn't have to hear that. But you will hear that on the actual recording of this thing. Everything said here is public. If you don't feel comfortable saying something, please don't say it. I do plan to publish this for people to hear it and to receive the information. So just please do and keep that in mind. I'm getting a call from somebody. I don't know who that is. All right. So without further ado, the podcast that we have today may be the single biggest podcast as far as like subject matter to me. That we have. We as melanated people or people of color in America and throughout the world have a history as tainted as that Flint, Michigan water. And it's more tampering than an election. But we've been labeled and misnumbered with several names. The most common of the day may be black to most people. And I feel like in college, I had a professor. His name was Father Brown. And he always showed me this picture of the Sankofa bird, and he always told me that the meaning of it was, reaching back for what was lost to go forward. And I feel like that's very apropos to this conversation here. This podcast is about reaching back for what was lost while moving forward. And without further ado, I don't want to hold up too much time, but I feel like we should start at some base level to give people some understanding. And I feel like a lot of people's understanding of people of color and where we start off at is, slavery. And more so that's kind of where the thought process may start. But we have a longer history than that. And I feel like I'm going to allow these two brothers to kind of expound on these things. But, I want them to discuss the history of, melanated people or people of color, however you want to discuss it. You may say Moors. But I want them to discuss the history and how we get to this place of being in American bondage, and how do we get to the place where we have to, reclaim ourselves and go back for what was lost and basically reclaim ourselves. So again, the first questions I kind of want to start off with, and either of you guys can start, of course, is, I want to kind of get a short description or get a description of, what did the world look like before, slavery in the United States as we know it here? And what led to this bondage worldwide that bring us to this position? Either of you guys can start.
I yield the floor.
Eli, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. First of all, can I get people's names? How's everybody doing, man? My name's Eliyahu. Nice to be here with everybody. Appreciate being here. I know I came in a little bit late, so I don't know if everybody did like kind of introductions. How's everybody feeling?
All is well. Thank you for asking. This is ObaShango-El. I'm on the panel with you.
Okay. All right. Is it just us talking, or I see?
Yeah, it'll just be you two guys talking. There's the people who are just listening.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, if Toriano wants to break down and give some context pertaining to how we got here, I mean, you definitely could do that, brother.
Okay, then, not a problem. From my studies, if you're talking about colonial chattel servitude, first we have to understand that we've been misclassified even under that, because first and foremost, actually we're prisoners of war. We're not slaves. When you look up the word slave, it denotes the Slavic peoples. Contracts and agreements were made between the Moroccan Empire and what's known back then in 1787 as the United States. And the United States didn't uphold its end of the bargain. And through reclassification, denationalization, raids, and wars through Andrew Jackson and, even earlier wars between the British and what they call, quote unquote, the Indians, and the French and who they call, quote unquote, the Indians. A lot of us were taken captive, being the autochthonous people of the land, and actually sold into servitude, but under the auspices of prisoners of war. And not only that, you also have to go back to even 1493, when Spain started to, through the conquering of what they call the New World, which is actually the Old World. We'll get into that a little bit later. They started removing us from these shores here and selling us on the auction blocks in Europe. So pretty much from the period of the 1700s up into the 1800s, the Moor, scientifically known as the Paleo-American autochthonous aborigine, has been fighting for his and her life, or lives, not only their lives, but our freedom as well, through denationalization and reclassification, through Jim Crow, all the way up to where it is today, economic genocide, all of these things. So if you want to talk about what they call slavery, it never changed in and of itself. The only thing it would do was morph into a different form. So it's still today more of the same.
Yeah, I totally agree with the history that he just gave, which is spot on. I mean, it goes back to the treaties. I think you referenced kind of the Treaty of 1836, Treaty of Peace and Friendships. All were supposed to be ways in which, it was almost as if the empire granted the foreigner or the colonizer to come over here and do business, but they didn't hold up their end of the bargain. And in the midst of that, we, just as he's calling us, right, the true people of the land have been tricked into through, I wouldn't even say trick, man, because part of it is through reconstruction, as far as the way that we're taught, the education systems, all of that has led us to where we are right now, right? We don't know who we are. We don't even know that this is our land. We've fallen for the okie doke. We're told we came from Africa. All of these misunderstandings, the misnomers that we've allowed to, be attached to us. So that's spot on. It was a great breakdown, brother.
Thank you. Gratitude, family. To even go even deeper, the way the original arrangement was supposed to be when the British Empire, I have people trying to get on, Brother Core, you may want to check, say they're waiting to get in. So I know you handle that part.
Indeed. Just tell them all to make sure they mute on the way in, okay?
Yeah. Okay, then. If you guys can hear, just make sure you mute your phone. So back to what I was saying, the original agreements, if you go back to Great Britain and Morocco, you will find treaties between each of the colonial powers that had come over here. And this was long before the 1700s. We're talking about in the 1600s, various treaties that were created in the early 1700s. The thing about it was the original relationship was supposed to be what's known as a usufruct. The United States, or what they call the United States of America, i.e. the 13 colonies prior, were actually born out of a colonial agreement just to do business over here, and born into what's known as a usufruct. Now, a usufruct is where one who grants you the right to use the land, but you cannot destroy the land in your use of it. So the United States actually had received, they were granted an agricultural usufruct. Now, the thing about it is, Morocco was supposed to be paid. The United States was supposed to grow their agricultural goods, sell them worldwide. They were supposed to receive payment. They had to pay the trustee of the land. The trustee of the land is the empire, known as the Moroccan Empire at the time. And the beneficiaries of that arrangement was the Paleo-American autochthonous Aboriginal Moor, also known as the mound builders, misclassified as Los Indios or Indian. And to keep from paying the thing that the United States did was they eliminated the beneficiary being the misnomer African American, Negro, Black, and colored today. So to get back in our proper status, this is why they fight so hard to keep you from doing that, because there are maximum laws. There are laws at place that states that the heir succeeds to the restitution, not the penalty. So now what happens is you're looking at all of these centuries of back pay and beneficial receipts that we never have received. Plus, if you compound it in the inflationary adjustment rate today, they wouldn't be able to pay. Not only that, if they were to go back to gold and silver, they couldn't even pay you that, because you cannot take the resources from the land and pay the heir or the beneficiary their own resources. There's no equity in that. So the only equity that they would be able to compensate us with is the original usufruct, growing their agriculture, selling it worldwide, paying the trustee, i.e. the empire, who then would pay out the dividends to the beneficiaries, which would be us. This is the dilemma we are having today. This is why people are being demonized today. This is also the reason why they are fighting so hard for you not to reclassify and get back into impropria persona, which is your proper status, because there's a debt there that they would not be able to pay, the beneficiary as well as the empire. And this is another reason why they're wholesale slaughtering our people out in the streets as well, because if there's no heir, then there's nothing to pay. There's no beneficiary, there's no one to pay. So it's important that we correct this via, in the lawful sense. Paperwork puts you in this situation. It's going to take paperwork to get you out. It was legislated laws that put our ancestors in this situation, and it's going to be law that gets us out. So I can go back further in history. Right now, we can just focus on this point. I yield the floor to my brother if he has anything he wants to, add on to that.
We're going with the next question. My main focus is just finding solutions and ways in which we can build to be able to correct, the centuries of misinformation or wrong plays that we've been doing. So if we can find ways to be able to build, move forward, come up with actual strategies to put in play so that we can change our circumstances and our situations, I'm all for that. All right.
Okay.
Indeed, I think that does bring about the next question of recapping the history. I guess the true question after that is, how do we get into our proper self? I know that's a loaded question. There's a number of things that go along with that. But again, there's a lot of people here, and this is a small community here amongst this entire Zoom here. So it's like, this is enough people to start a tribe or community. What are the steps that we need to be taking or should be taking, or what are the proper steps? I know there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say, but I know both of these brothers have their dealings in knowing how you can do that or not do that or go into the process of it. So to get myself out of paperwork, who am I talking to? Who am I sending the paperwork to? Where does it go? What are the right words, so to speak? Maybe you brothers can add with that and start with that question and lead on.
Okay. Would you care to go, brother? Or,
go ahead. I mean, I'm just getting a feel for where you're coming from. Just kind of listening, hearing out, and seeing. Because like I said, my main thing is trying to build. So I like to listen, and see before I don't like to come into anything thinking that we are in a debate. I don't want that kind of energy at all. And honestly, it seems like we are kind of walking down the same path. It sounds like from what I'm hearing is it's a more understanding, just understanding our true self, and that's exactly where I'm at with it as well. So I don't mind you, breaking down and sharing what you have as far as strategies in which can be implemented. I'm curious to hear.
Okay. Well, Uh, for the last, I say, 13 years since I've, studied and been a part of the Moorish paradigm, uh, what has led me to, when I look at the basis in law, not just positive law, but natural law, it led me to look at the records of the land. Now, if one knows anything about land and the conveyance of it and the purchase of it, whatever, there's always an abstract. The abstract is the history of the land. So when I started to do my due diligence in regards to not just anthropology, but archaeology, genetics, and especially morphology, uh, it led me to find factual that we misclassified as the Negro or African American or Black are actually the autochthons of the land. And when I started to look at the archaeological finds, for example, I'll give you one in Eastern Tennessee. Holliston Mills, Eastern Tennessee, they found a burial site of thousands of our ancestors, known as the Yanwita by the misnomer, quote unquote, people, the Cherokee, actually the Anianwia. And in the legends and the lore of the Anianwia, they said that when they had came to Turtle Island or North America, the Yanwita or the little people or the Mamutia, the Pygmies, were already here. So when I started doing my due diligence on this, and I looked in the University of California, Riverside, the archaeological remains of our ancestors had dated just there to 40,000 years ago. Now, let's just stop at that date. When you look at that and you compare it to the morphology of the people around the world today, even the ones on these reservations that they call Indians, morphologically, they did not exist at the time. The genetic mutations that had created light skin, brachycephalic skulls, which is the short skull casing, broadened face, wide cheekbones, all of that, the classic mongoloid morphology, it did not even exist 40,000 years ago. All right. Not only that, the pale skin, the markers that deal with single nucleotide polymorphisms, SLC2485, SLC4582, HER2, OCA2, M microcortisol receptor 1. All of those deal with lighter skin, hair, eyes. The mutations had not even taken place then. Those mutations are recent. We're talking about as recent as maybe about 10,000 years ago. And that's at best, you're pushing it. So the only people at that time that could have matched what was found in the ground in Holliston Mills, Eastern Tennessee, are the people that you see in the Ituri forest of the Congo, known as the Twa, but they have various names of the tribes. It escapes my memory right now. But and not only that, the San, the Khoisan, and if you go to the Pacific, you're talking about the people like the Atas of the Philippines, the Orang Asli of Malaysia, the Bans of Southeast Asia, these various short-statured people. Now, even further back in time, you go 226 miles southeast, you have what's called the Topper site. And human activity was present there, excavated at a level of 51,300 years ago. So the further we keep going back in time, the more and more it displaces these people whom the United States has set up as, quote unquote, the indigenous people of the land. These reservations, Bureau of Indian Affairs, things of that nature. This is the reason why they don't want you dealing with archaeology and especially DNA. Now, on the genetic aspects of that, I've been working very closely with a geneticist for the last 6 years. And in my studies and research underneath him, as well as my own independent studies and research, we have found that we've had over 800 tests completed and genetic reviews done. And so far we have over 800. And what we have found out is that about 88% of us who have been misclassified as African American, Negro, and Black, we carry these ancestry informative markers. Not only do we carry the ancestry informative markers coming out of the Pacific, but we also carry the Northeast Asian Siberian corridor proto-Mongoloid markers as well. So now we're dealing with a people whom have been on the land long before these migrations. I won't even touch on the Huaylaco site in Mexico, which is through 4 archaeological tests, I think uranium, thorium dating, potassium, argon dating. There was 4 different types of dating methods used, showed a human activity presence of about 250,000 years ago. The only people that were around at that time was go and look in the mirror. Okay, so now what happens is showing that we have these ancestry informative markers, which shows ancient migrations and genetic introgression of another people coming in. Now you're dealing with about 40 million of us here on this land, with a substantial amount carrying these markers and just misclassified. So the first thing that we started to do was we started to correct our status by blood, because genetics and blood falls under natural law. For those who want to get quote unquote Judeo-Christian, it falls under what they call God's law. And then now we're dealing with inheritance and birthrights based on blood. That's something that is beyond any man or positive law to change. Positive law, man's law cannot interfere with that. The laws of nature are the highest. Once we substantiated who we are from a genetic, archaeological perspective, then we went into the international proclamations, such as the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, the Organization of American States, American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. We went into the UN ICCPR, United Nations International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. We went into the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. We went into the UN Charter Treaty of 1945, found that United States Statutes at Large, 59 Stat 1033 through 1218, specifically Statute 1045 and 1046, Articles 55 A through C and 56, to show where we had the absolute right. And we also use the Bible, because the Bible was recognized as law, Public Law 97-280, United States Statutes at Large 96 Stat 1211, where they said themselves that the Bible is, quote unquote, this is what Congress said, the word of God. And in there it talks about birthrights, and it also talks about returning every man unto his family and unto his possession. And it also talks about landmarks. And we'll get into that a little bit later, because that comes into the age of empires. But these things are used to substantiate your absolute right to return back to your ancestors and what's rightfully according to the laws of nature and what's been recognized as international law and positive law as yours. After that, we give a few people notice. We give the governor notice. We give the president notice. We give the Secretary General of the UN notice. We're not asking you. It's already the Most High's right. It's natural law. It's a right given by natural law. That's where we start in regards to correcting the status of who we are. Then we put it on the record, county record. Then we move on to removing ourselves from the bankruptcy. And the reason why we do that, because there is U.S. Supreme Court case law that specifically speaks to whether you are a natural individual, living flesh and blood man, or a corporation. If you are bankrupt, you are considered as what they call in Latin, civiliter mortus, or civilly dead. That means you don't have the right to make or the power to make and enforce law. And we remove ourselves from that through commercial means, i.e. bonds, common law method, which is also deals with contracts as well as common law bonds, United States Supreme Court case law to support that. And then now what we're doing is we're coming together to move as a people instead of an individual, because you can get more done as a group. And so dealing with the commercial aspects, we write the Attorney General. We send our bond to the Attorney General of the corporate franchise that's operating on the land in which you are domiciled, the organic land, because the state, as you know it today, is not the land. It is a legal fiction. It is an ens legis, which means a creature of the law, legal fiction. So we give them notice, and we also, put the bond with the United States Department of the Treasury, because he's a trustee of the bankruptcy as well. And we come together as a people, and now we're in the process of wrapping up our Paleo-American Autochthonous Aborigine Moor census, so we can start moving as a group. And that's how we do things over here, dealing with, from the blood right heir perspective.
Got a question for you. So currently, how are you moving it in commerce?
So in commerce right now?
Yeah.
Okay. From what aspect are you talking?
To be able to provide for family as far as taking care of the basic needs of, food, your where you domicile, just the everyday survival.
It's still the same methodology until we have some other things that I'm not at liberty to speak about right now that we're putting in place for our people. But as it stands right now, it's still the same methodology, as people use what they call Federal Reserve notes.
Okay, using
but we are working to remove ourselves from that platform, because we have that right as autochthonous people to set up our own means of commerce. So it's a process, it's a gradual process and a transition to move away from that old system and to go on our system. So it's being set up right now as we speak. I'm just not at liberty to speak on it right now.
No, that's fine. All right. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm grasping, I'm understanding what you're saying. Make sure that I'm listening properly. And from what it sounds like, using the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples, what you're doing is the right for self-determination, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right.
Based on blood.
Based on just sanguineous.
You say when the law of blood, not as man interprets it, but what natural law says. Let me share two maxims of law with you. Mm-hmm. One is, what land belongs to no one by natural reason belongs to the first occupant. And there's another one, land lying unoccupied is given to the first occupant. And let me share this one with you. The rights of blood and kindred cannot be destroyed by any civil law. So when we're talking about those maxims there, pretty much everything has been laid out for you in regards to natural law, the Most High's law. We can go into use solely. If you have any other questions, or if you have something to add on to that, I yield the floor, but I really want to touch on the landmarks as well. But if you have anything, brother, please feel free to share.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, my main thing is just trying to find ways in which we can move properly in commerce with the proper status. And not be, I know everybody sees the news, everybody sees what's going on. I really, one of the main catalysts that got me into my studies was really just trying to get to the bottom of what is causing a lot of the unjust laws that we see, or what we call laws, which now I understand to be statutes or ordinances, and the fact that we've contracted improperly, which makes us subject to those jurisdictions to where they can do what they're doing to us. And so my main focus has been trying to figure out ways in which we can navigate, We can extract commerce. If we need to flip that into a means so that we can establish our own gold-backed currency, then we could do so. Underneath, same thing with the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples and self-determination, creating our own tribes. So now we have the means to do so, and it doesn't have to be recognized by the Department of Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Yes, you're right.
So it's really we have the ability to begin establishing and mobilizing our own tribes, and I would call it extraction, almost how Tulsa, Oklahoma was operating. And my main thing is, what ways can we, band together, come together as a tribe, commerce, if it is us dealing with the fiat at first, extract that, and then set up our own methods of, trade amongst ourselves. And then as that goes, then we really are in control of how we do international commerce when we set those things up.
Okay, I have the answer to that. I like to answer that. What's causing us to fall into these bad contracts is our lack of knowledge in relation to civics. That is the main reason right there. Now, let me explain to you what I mean by that. I'm ex-military. I'm a military veteran. And what had happened was, in my younger years, when I was active duty, I didn't know any better at the time. I thought that my paycheck every month was I was being paid. Later on, when I had rearranged and reacquainted my mind with my constitutional studies, because I took constitutional law in high school, I realized number one, I had never been paid for my service in the military. And in a rage, that's what had driven me to devour all the knowledge I can on what had been done to not only me, but to several other military veterans. And then as a whole, to what had been done to the people in this land. Okay. Number one, forgetting civics is one of the biggest detriments that has happened to us. People think that this is a democracy when the original contract was established as a republic. The contract, or the compact, which created the usufruct known as the United States of America and the 10-mile square United States. It was a usufruct, and it was only set up to be a republic. What happened was, in 1933, when Franklin D. Roosevelt had overthrown the last vestiges of the republic and turned it into a full-blown democracy. Now here we are 87 years later, and I guarantee you, if you walk down the street and you ask the average Joe what form of government is the United States, they're going to tell you, he or she is going to tell you, a democracy.
Definitely. That's yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So now you've already agreed out of your mouth that you have contracted, that you believe this is a democracy and you exist in it, and then you have declared it your form of government through your ignorance. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, not only that, in 1933, they went bankrupt. We understand that. They also pledged all of the property, even the children being born, as collateral for the international bankers. So once we learn, first and foremost, that the United States, and we're going to get to the 14th Amendment, because everything I tell you on this line, I come with receipts. Anybody that truly knows me, I back up everything I say. I have the documents. So not only are we operating in a capacity under the fraudulent enactment of the 14th Amendment, which gave the so-called Negro the illusion of inclusion, which actually, where Dred Scott is still the law of the land. You're operating under fraudulent capacity, believing you're a 14th Amendment citizen. You believe this is a democracy. You also think that fiat is money, or the Federal Reserve note is money. No, it is just a note. It tells you on there. It's a note. And if you read the congressional records of Louis T. McFadden, it tells you, man, that Federal Reserve notes are not money. They're just mere promises to pay. They don't pay anything. So the first thing we have to do is reacquaint ourselves back with civics, back with the lawful form of government, back to the understanding of what actually makes law. a bill, then the bill has to go through both houses, and if approved, it goes to the president, and then he signs it into law, and it becomes law. To understand what's really going on, and then from that aspect, we can start to walk backwards, backtrack, and then reclaim who we are to start to get remedy. Because this is what I found out, and there are groups of people that have been working with me for years. When they have to go into these quote unquote public venues, which I don't like the words public and private, because anyone knows that true public means that it deals with the United States statutes at large, the laws that Congress passed, the executive orders, as well as the stare decisis of the United States Supreme Court. And private, and that's in the Republic, and private is contracts made between two private parties that are outside of the laws of Congress, as well as the stare decisis of the United States Supreme Court. That's true public and private. I call it what it is: a republic versus a democracy.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And so, can I ask you something real quick? Just want to make sure I understood that correctly. So you say you don't operate using the idea of the public and private?
No, because
so you're saying public and private meaning outside of that jurisdiction of the U.S. corporation.
No, private means outside of the jurisdiction of the United States Republic in regards to congressional legislation and the stare decisis of the United States Supreme Court. What you have now is a democracy. For it to even make a distinction between public and private, it has to have a lawful basis from which it could operate. The democracy has no constitution.
So that would be what the de facto form of the government, right?
Exactly.
Right. And so that's more so the way I look at it is it's more so putting people underneath a jurisdiction or forcing people to operate underneath Admiralty maritime law.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The law of the gun and the law of contracts, even to your ignorance and detriment. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing. What I found out is that when you get certain records, I won't say here on this podcast, we can discuss that, at another time privately, but certain records, when they're presented properly under seal, then what happens is it creates a dichotomy for them, because once they see it and they see that we have it under seal, you cannot unsee what you've seen. When we show them the lie, when we show them the fraud, now there's a problem. There's a problem. When you see documents referencing the lawful form of government, but it shows you how you've been acting all this time, it shows you unequivocally and irrefutably that you're operating in treason. And then silently, they will start to do things for you. The reason why I say silently, because you got 330 million people. Can you imagine if 330 million people knew this and what would happen?
Be off with their heads. Yeah.
Okay, I yield the floor.
Do you want to add some more to that, Illy?
No, right now. I mean, I'm enjoying the conversation. Yeah. Like I said, man, I'm here more so just to kind of get a feel. Like, my main thing is solutions, right? So what are we putting in play? All right, so we know that we need civics. All right, we know we need our people to be educated on, a lot of the things that we just talked about. The average person, looking into any of these matters, and they're going along with the status, the narrative that's being fed to them in the news pertaining to, vote Democrat, first black, let me put the quotation marks up, first black vice president. That's where we are right now as a people, and most people are consenting, which also goes along with the census, right? Most people are consenting for the democracy or this de facto government to continue to do what it does, right? And so knowing that and knowing and seeing, they have a lot of plans that they have in play for our people for the future. Like, what can we do personally or right now? Like, what are we doing to make sure that we're not taking advantage of? I know there's some things that I'm providing, there's some things that I'm doing, and I think you've mentioned some of the things that you're putting in play. But what else do you think can be done to kind of steer us into that direction? Or
okay,
on a personal, on a personal level, to make sure that one, we not contracting into certain jurisdictions that we shouldn't be contracting into, And just like we contract ourselves into certain things, we got to kind of go back and at least correct those contracts, or what's the word I'm looking for? Almost void those contracts out.
Well, I'm going to say something. Number one, I don't operate in fear, but I do operate in being wise and careful. We have a lot of people that look like us that have actually taken oaths and done other things to keep the true blood right heirs in this dead status. It's not so much, I'm not going to blame it on the pale-skinned European. Not all of it is his fault. A vast majority of it, the fault lies on people that look like us. Why? Because they want to live a better life, even if it means to the detriment and suffering of those that look like them. Mm-hmm. So I think one thing that we need to do as Moors, we need to charge these organizations with treason. Mm. We need to clean house of those that look like us first before we deal with this European, because he knows he's next on the chopping block. That's number one. Number two, we need to form solid study groups. That's why, Brother Corey, you've seen the OneDrive. I put that out there for our people to be educated, and they don't necessarily need me. You know, I'm pretty much, man, almost retired. You know, I've been doing this so long. So I left a body of knowledge for them to come together in study groups and educate themselves, so that once they do declare treason on those who have taken these positions that look like us and have the proper documentation under seal, there's no way out for them. Now, that's one solution, one part of the solution. The next part of the solution is, like what Noble Drew Ali told us, whenever you deal with the establishment, even though at the time of Noble Drew Ali, it was still somewhat of a republic. Not all the way a full republic, because it already started to go into decline when they signed the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, destroying the Republican form of government and turning it into a semi-democracy. Why? Because the Federal Reserve Bank is the fifth plank of the Communist Manifesto, written by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, that tells you that to set up a communist form of government, you're going to need a central bank. Mm-hmm. And I think that's plank number 5 in the Communist Manifesto. I have that book in my OneDrive. You're more than welcome to read it. What we need to do is we need to operate in groups of 3s or 5s, you know, and go down and address these people in our proper status as Moors and show them we know about the fraud. And guess what? Fraud vitiates all forms of contract and makes them void ab initio. That's law. And we need to say, okay, now that we've discovered the fraud, the gig is up. So now we need to know, what are you going to put in place for a remedy? Because you owe me remedy. You are liable to me for a remedy. You see what I'm saying? He who creates the liability also must afford the remedy.
Mm. Like when they go to war and they bomb out people and then they have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understood.
But the first thing is to get educated. A proper amount of us hold our own accountable for treason, because whether you want to look at it or not, like we talked about slavery, slavery didn't end, it just changed form. First, it was chattel servitude of not only Europeans, but us being denationalized as prisoners of war and being put in chattel servitude. Then it changed from that to Jim Crow. Then it changed from Jim Crow to the fraud of the 14th Amendment. And let me add this on. In 1861, the Confiscation Act of 1861 was passed by Congress, but not a de jure Congress. It was Congress that was reconvened under the authority of the commander-in-chief, who at that time was Abraham Lincoln. So they said at the behest of the president. The Confiscation Act of 1861 confiscated all private property in regards to chattel property from the South and conveyed it to the Union or the Republic at that time. So the Negro is still classified as quote unquote federal property. Okay. Now, from that, it went to the fraud of the 14th Amendment, which was never ratified in accordance with Article 5. Also, man, it violated Article 4, Section 4. And I think Article 1, Section 7, the Constitution for the United States of America. That last one, excuse my memory, maybe a little shaky on that one. And then Jim Crow. And then from Jim Crow to the Democracy 1933 bankruptcy, where everyone, including Europeans, Caucasian, pale-skinned Europeans, thrown into chattel bondage underneath the birth certificate and Social Security system. So all of this has to be addressed. Many of our people have taken payoffs. Kamala Harris, payoff. Maxine Waters, payoff. Jesse Jackson, payoff. I hate to say it, Martin Luther King, payoff.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And I'm going to say something that may be controversial. I'm not going to knock all of his message, but I'm looking at the intent. Honorable Elijah Muhammad. These people knew that we were Moors. They knew this. Who else out there? Reverend Al Sharpton. A lot of these mayors. You know, they know the truth. But if you are getting paid standing on the lie, you are committing treason and you are just as guilty.
Yeah, I think that's a very large scale. It's a large scale, and I think is a justifiable desire to want to really hammer everyone who's responsible for treason, but that also requires us moving in unity and large numbers to be able to go about bringing that result. So, what are the steps?
Let me say this: the first step is education. You can't hold anybody accountable to treason if you don't know what treason is.
True.
Or what accounts for treason. So once again, education of civics is the first step. Education of civics and how you relate to the established form of government, lawfully established form of government, underneath what they call the republic, that's your form of government, who you are in relation to that. Once you learn your natural born relationship to the Republican form of government, then you can move from there. Then you can start to get the documents, because you will understand how these documents uphold the lawful form of government. You have the proof, or as the young folks say, you come in with the receipts. And it's something that they cannot deny. I've seen it before. How I know this, one of the blood right heirs, two of them, they had children born in the Roman hospitals, or quote unquote pale-skinned European hospitals, where they tried to force a birth certificate and social on them. And when they presented the proper documents under seal, or as they say, they came with the receipts. One of them, the attorney of the hospital, they had attorney on staff of the hospital, looked at the documentation and told the doctors and the nurses that this man is correct. He doesn't need a birth certificate or social security card. It's actually us that's standing outside the law. We're the ones outside the law. This is what the pale-skinned European attorney told the doctors and the nurses. So it's all about having a proper understanding of who you are in relation to the lawful form of government.
I have a question before you get too far. My apologies. All right, so the person you're referring to or referencing, you're saying that they, when the child was born, decided to opt out of the birth certificate and social,
yes,
and they provided their tribal information, right?
Yes, they had their status. Yes, they had their status documents,
and with
as
the
well
tribe,
as
so you're doing your own birth record with the tribe, and so the hospital, the attorney that's associated with the hospital said they're correct. Now my question is, after that, all right, what are they using? What entity are they using to conduct commerce, or what entity do they plan to use for the young one in order to be able to conduct commerce?
Okay. Well, you do.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I did see somebody in there said that they could speak on that. I was going to open up for everybody to kind of have a question or speak toward the end of this conversation, but I'm going to leave it up to the two people speaking whether or not they would like anybody to add in on that conversation piece. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
you can open it.
Eliyahu said he had something he wanted to add to that. Do you guys mind if he adds to that?
Yeah, he can add to it. He's one of the blood right heirs.
Please unmute yourself, sir, and please do add.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, peace. I'm one of the Moors that was in the hospital with when my child was born. So what I did is I actually had a notary in the hospital room with me. DCS came to try to speak to me and tried to have me sign a form to willingly give up my children or my child that was born. I basically told her I wasn't contracting with her. I also asked for oath of office, which she couldn't present because they don't have oath of office. I laid out all my documents on the bed. I had the Constitution, I had the Treaty of Peace, all under seal. I had all my my documents of my proclamation of nationality along with my bonds that protect me, and basically a trust. The DCS agent got a little nervous because I'm very passionate when it comes to my nationality and my children. So she wanted to go get the police. I said, yeah, you can bring the police in. And so she went and got a police officer. Police officer walked in. I asked him for his name, asked him for his oath of office and his delegation of authority. He said it was downtown. I said, okay, right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna accept your bond for honor and value, and I'm gonna sign you as my trustee to protect me and my family. He said, yes, sir. After that, it was a wrap. She couldn't do anything. She said she's gonna leave a piece of paper there. I said, I'm not contracting with you. You can leave that paper wherever you want to leave it, but it's not gonna be signed by me. After they left, the CEO, CFO, or whoever was the head of the hospital came in, tried to speak to me about the birth certificate, tried to show her my documents. She wouldn't touch them. She tried to call me sovereign. I said I wasn't sovereign. Told her my title. I asked her if she wanted to see my paperwork. She didn't want to look at it because I guess she already talked to the agents and the police officer. Afterwards, she said she'll leave the paperwork there for the birth certificate. I said no need to. I'm not contracting with you, and you can leave it wherever you want to in your place, but I'm not contracting with you. Afterwards, I asked her if we can leave. She said yeah. They took the little bracelet with the GPS tracker off my son's ankle, and then we left. Oh, the umbilical cord. Umbilical cord, yeah. And then we left. So yeah, the documents along with the Constitution and Treaty of Peace, everything under seal, along with the fact that I had a notary there. I did write an affidavit of truth pertaining to everything that happened that day, and I did let them know that everything was being recorded as well.
Awesome.
So the question I asked was, after that, now moving forward in time as the little one gets older, what will be the method for the little one to be able to conduct commerce?
Okay, I'll answer that. You are aware that a social is not required to if you wanted to gain employment.
Correct.
You could operate through an EIN or a trust.
Okay. So was that the consensus on the fact that, all right, so behind the way that you're doing things, the idea is to set up individual trusts?
Yes.
Okay. It's in that form, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
So the question I have is, all right, so, and kudos to you, brother, for not contracting the little one. I just have, I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of not everybody's going to be willing to face the heat the way that brother just did, dealing with all the things that goes on in the hospital room, especially being under stress with the woman giving birth, right? And so what to those who have already been contracted, who have those birth certificates, there needs to be remedy also.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm kind of asking you to kind of get your perspective on it. I know what I've done for mine, and it seems like there's like it's multiple ways for us to be able to create that separation, or to be able to, in essence, get a security interest back in ourselves, right, and be able to create that distinction that we are not that entity that is on paper, that ends legis.
There are a couple of ways. If you go into the drive, I'm not sure if you're familiar with what I have, but brother Core can share it with you later on. Their own records attest to the fact. If you go to the GPO, Government Printing Office Writing Style Guide, I have I think I have about 2 or 3 of them in there. I think the latest one is 2016. Section 3.2 deals with proper nouns. It deals with capitalization rules, and it tells you exactly, according to the Government Printing Office Writing Style Guide, which is enacted by statute as the official publication of writing, what the natural born man and woman, how a proper noun should reflect them. So there's a number of ways. Excuse me?
I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding. You saying you're referring to like the uppercase, lowercase spelling of the name?
Yes, this is in there. This is in their own documents.
Yeah.
Yes. So therefore, we know for a fact that they're dealing with an ens legis or a commercial vessel of Admiralty Maritime Law, and then your proper status. If you go to Article 3 of the treaty, you can actually put a lien against that because you have equity in it.
Okay.
And equity regards the beneficiary as the de jure owner. When you get a chance, look up Article 3 of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1836. And in your proper status, you can seize that maritime vessel.
Got it.
Yeah. So
that's the process.
I'm not trying to hold back remedy. These
are
some things that we can discuss. You know, some things we can discuss privately. You know, because all of this stuff is monitored. And,
yeah,
you know,
definitely. And so that's the route that I took. That's why I was asking those questions. Like I said, for me, I'm a listener, so I kind of wanted to kind of like get a baseline of just you, because this is my first time interacting and conversing with you. So I'm trying to get the rhythm, understand, who you are, where you're coming from, and then see where we kind of meet and be able to build from there. So what you just said with the 1836. Being able to put liens on the ens legis, to be able to, it's different ways to go about skinning a cat. It's different ways for us to be able to make sure that we have corrected, perfected our security interests in that commercial vessel, but also make sure that we are operating in our proper nationality status.
Correct. Now, what we do is we go one further and declare the vessel in our proclamation. And then we take that further and we bond it up in silver. We put we put
silver bond.
Substance behind it. So now what happens is it gives you the controlling interest. Why? Because bankrupts are civilly dead.
Exactly. Now the with the lien that's placed, is it assigned to your the foreign trust as well as the owner of the ens legis?
Yes, the way we do it, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It does. It deals with the foreign aspect of that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does. And all manner and forms of spelling are secured and bonded.
Nice. Okay.
So certain things I don't want to say too much. Like I said, man, brothers like us, we have to be careful. Reason being because Empress Verdi Asi, Prince Uriel Bey, CM Bey, even the mysterious circumstances of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Once you start getting close to the nexus of what this thing is, then strange things start happening. You understand what I'm saying? Certain things are mouth to ear. You know, and those that's listening, no, I'm not a Mason. I don't deal with a secret societies. I just move with wisdom.
Right, I get you.
Yes. All right. Is there anything anybody want to add? I definitely want to give people open up for people to ask a question or to add to the conversation. Again, this is a method of us bonding and creating those bonds in which we want to see amongst the world and what we need to be creating. You know, this whole conversation is a basis of definitely bridging gaps into bridges altogether. From this conversation, I'm hoping everybody shares that information and we all kind of stay in touch on this information, because that's what's most important if we want to see anything happen or see the change happen that we want. So from there, unless I know you want to talk about monuments, for sure.
Oh, thank you.
I definitely wanted to talk about that.
Let me go into that. For those who may be listening, if you have a Bible near, please, you know, put your hands on it, and I'm going to take you to some verses that you can see these things for yourself. Okay. If we go where I'm domiciled, I'm in Washita proper. Wichita territory is anciently known. If we go a couple of 100 miles west into the panhandle of what they call Oklahoma, you will find what's called Anubis Caves. And also you will find in Oklahoma the Pontotoc Stele. We're talking about roughly about 800 BC. Anubis Caves, roughly about the same age. You travel north of the Mississippi River into Iowa, Davenport, you will find what's called the Davenport Stele. If you go up on the northeast into Comassacoomconnet, Cape Cod Bay, Massachusetts, you will find the Bornstone, written in Punic Iberian, about 500 BC. Now we're getting into what's known as the Age of Empires. Many years after the Paleo-American autochthonous aborigine was here, and the Age of Empires arose around the world, we have factual evidence that the Tamarian Empire, also known as Kemet, known to the Greco-Roman world as Egypt, was here. We know that one of the greatest maritime empires that ever existed, known as called the Phoenicians or the Phenoi by the Greco-Roman world, was here, which spawned the Carthaginian Empire. Punic Iberia was part of that, as well as their territory extended across or through the Pillars of Hercules, known as the Straits of Gibraltar today, and to North, South, Central America, and the Caribbean islands, heavily landmarked with Punic Iberian and Paleo-Hebrew writing. Okay, these are landmarks. If you look in Black's Law Dictionary, the older editions, look in Bouvier's Dictionary of Law, 1856, Black's Law Dictionary, 1st through the 4th edition. You can look at what monuments are. Monuments are legal documents and recordings. Landmarks are legal documents and recordings. So now we know that it was Punic Iberian, also known as Paleo-Hebrew. Then we know what people we're dealing with. We're definitely dealing with Moors, okay? Now, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 19, verse 14, you can look it up. It tells you about landmarks. You look at Deuteronomy, chapter 27, verse 17, it tells you about landmarks. You look up Proverbs 22, verse 28, it tells you about landmarks. If you look up Proverbs 23, verse 10, it tells you about landmarks. None of the landmarks are to be removed because they are set up for an inheritance. So the European knew as far back as colonial or early United States, after it came from a colony to the recognition of the international world as the United States of America. They knew about these landmarks. They knew about these writings. They even knew about the Creeks, the Misnomer Creek Indians, being part of the periplus of Hanno the Navigator, who was a great Carthaginian seafarer. So they tell you who, quote unquote, the Misnomer Indians are. You understand what I'm saying? And all of this is during the Age of Empires. They knew that Egypt was over here. Abraham Lincoln called the lands in the Mississippi Valley and westwards Egypt of the West. You know, all of this stuff is old and recorded. They've been knowing this. So being that they couldn't remove the landmarks because it tied to an inheritance of a people according to one of their founding books, the Bible, i.e. in particular, King James. They couldn't move the landmarks. So in order to gain control of the land, they had to move the people, i.e. reclassify the people, i.e. denationalize the people. Are you understand where I'm going? Because if I reclassify you and denationalize you, you have no tie back to the landmarks which was established for your inheritance.
You're not connected. It's like people aren't thinking to connect themselves to it. And just to add on to what you just spoke on, I just seen an article where Smithsonian had tucked away all the way in the bottom of the archives an American, what's it called, American Indian, who was buried holding a box, and the inscription on the box was written in ancient Hebrew.
Yes.
Right. And it wasn't until they brought the scholars in and was like, oh yeah, that is Hebrew, but never put that out for the display because they never want the connection to be made that the so-called American Indians or Moors had the connection to the ancient or chosen people of the Most High or the Hebrew.
That's true. That's true. And even if you look at the time, what did you say? You said the Hebrew, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. During the time of Hanno the Navigator in the Greco-Roman world, the rise of the Greco-Roman world, do you know what they called Spain and Portugal? It was known as Iberia. Iber is Eber, which is Hebrew. You understand what I'm saying? So they already knew this. And as Carthage started to fall, they said, I think Hanno took 30,000 people. He took a fleet of ships and 30,000 people, or the Carthaginians. I'm not sure if it was Hanno himself or subsequent Carthaginian seafarers. When their world started to fall, they fled over here. They fled to the Americas as Rome started to gain more power. Now, I forgot to mention this. Christianity is not new to this land either. If you go to Connecticut, there's a place called the Moroccan 5th Century Church. Around about 450, 480 AD, you had the monastic brotherhood of Morocco come over here and started teaching the gospel of Yeshua HaMashiach. Around about 3rd century AD, they even came as far in and as Ouachita proper, i.e. what's known today as Arkansas, and they left inscriptions on what's called the Narrows Cave rock shelters in Crawford County, Arkansas. So now you have Christianity or inscriptions related to early Christianity, not what's known today, but found here in Arkansas around about 2nd, 3rd century, and up in Connecticut around about the 5th century. And they have a recordation of that journey in Hajj Mamoun Rock, on Hajj Mamoun Rock in Fiqwig, Morocco, that's found today. So even if we look at what they call the doctrine of discovery, which is how the European got over here in the first place, through the papal bulls of the Pope, and it talked about in a case of Johnson versus McIntosh that the discovery must go to the Christian nations. Well, guess what? I'm sorry, Europeans. You weren't the first Christian nation here. It was Africans. So when you look at this history and you boil it down to history, when you boil it down to history, law, anthropology, archaeology, morphology, and genetics, and you got all of that supporting who you are on this land, you have no reason to remain in the current status that you are. You understand what I'm saying? And not only that, it boils down to the pale-skinned European and those that look like us that are aiding him. It boils down to birthright theft, and I can't say racism because racism deals with prejudice plus power. You understand what I'm saying? It boils down to trying to hold on to something that does not belong to you, i.e. theft of property. or i.e. not wanting to perform your trustee duties to a beneficiary that doesn't look like you, i.e. we're the beneficiaries. So
yeah,
I yield the floor on that.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear the last statement. What was the last statement you made?
Oh, I said I yield the floor.
Okay, my apologies. All right. I came across an interesting find from 1836. This was a codification of the laws of Georgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's preserved in that codification, so this is what all the judges carried on, back during that time. We know that they referred to the melanated people as being, we misclassify and call them slaves. The term that they used for slaves back then was free persons of color. All right. And they had a whole section in this book pertaining to those who were free persons of color. But I find it really interesting because they had a section in there that said those who would have exemptions from the jurisdiction of the state, right? And they listed either the American Indian, Moors, I want to say it was, and Hindus, right? Were excluded and had exemptions from any of the state jurisdiction. Or even the what would you call the lower court jurisdiction as well. But the burden of proof was upon that American Indian, that Moor, or that Lascar to show their status, because they were mixing them all together. I mean, when you see somebody who's melanated and they carrying a weapon or they're doing certain things, and they would snatch them up and hand them over to the courts. And so then it came down to status. And even in that, it shows that those who have the title of Moor or American Indian to them were outside of the jurisdiction that they actually had set. So it's almost like even in today, because that was from 1800s, and I'm seeing it right now, that there are protections that we can put in play by just doing some of the corrections. I mean, for me, myself, it's been pretty decent when just moving in trust, or even with the status corrections, or doing certain things like injunctions. Those things have brought me a certain level of ability to where I don't have to worry about the forced contracts that's happening on a whole lot of people, where now I can work on getting the capital up, converting it over into a solid actual money. Is that making sense?
100% sense. I have that whole law book, where that statute is drawn from. I got that in the law and related matters folder. I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, here's the beautiful part about it, which you just made me think of an idea. We should be writing the Georgia State Archives, and I shouldn't have said that out loud because, hopefully this won't get out like that. But we should be writing the Georgia State Archives to get that under seal, that statute under seal. Yeah, because under seal, it will have what's known as Article 4, Section 1 of the Constitution for the United States of America, full faith and credit to be applied to every quote unquote state. Right.
Okay, I see what you said. So just as an added witness, as an added, uppercut, There's another, I'm not sure if you've seen the Delaware title, Title 29 pertaining to the Lenape,
I've seen that.
Lenape, pertaining to Moors, the Lenape being, since the 1700s, were known as the Moors.
That's true.
It's the history is there. Our history is preserved all over, and it's down to us to really enforce and show ourselves studied and approved to get people to operate the way that they're supposed to under law. And what I'm finding is when you start presenting certain information, just like the brother who had all his documents in a row when he was in the hospital, it's like when we start doing those type of things, the energy changes up, especially when you're dealing with people who understand what it is that you're doing. Those who have the ability to kind of understand law, the basic miseducated person may not know exactly what we're saying, but those who are skilled or in the language of the legalese, they will be able to pick it up. At least that's been my experience.
It's a lot like the Matrix. You have a lot of agents who are doing the work of people who do understand the information. And then when you get further enough up to get to the people who understand the information you're saying, they allow you to, they know what you're saying enough to let you be. But it's getting through the agents and the workers who are almost like shields to keep you from getting yourself in the right status or getting yourself in the right place as far as your family and everything is concerned. I feel like probably the most problems that all of us may have had is probably with people who are working behind a desk, saying what you could and couldn't do, unfortunately. So, I think that's a big part of it. Just working strong enough and staying diligent onto what we're trying to do and not letting anybody deter us from that. Because a lot of people don't understand and they will stop you from their lack of understanding.
Right. Right. That's the reason why getting those documents under seal is important, because it cuts to the chase.
Indeed. All right. So, I mean, if we can, I definitely want to go on to questions. I got a lot of faces here. I want to call them up as I see them, and just if you want to add anything or ask any question, and allow that to happen. Is that cool with everybody? Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine with me. I pretty much gave a nice overview of where we coming from, as well as the brother on the line. So yeah, I'm open for questions.
Yes. And I will actually post links, and people have to get in touch with your OneDrive. That OneDrive is heavy in the game. And Eliyahu, you have a YouTube channel, and you also have a lot of information that you share via there. So we definitely want to get that information out there. And of course, this podcast is recorded. I will be delivering it to the two gentlemen here, and they can disseminate it as they wish to everybody here, or so on and so forth. And we'll go from there. So the first person I'm seeing here is Reginald L. So Reginald L, is anything you want to add to the conversation or any question you have?
I yield.
Hello, brother.
I said peace and love, family. I said I yield the floor.
Okay. Peace. Yeah. All right. The next person I had in here is this Islamico?
Hi, everyone. Peace. This is Omar from Alpha Bay, Toriano. How you doing, my brother? I don't have any questions.
Hey. Greetings. How you doing, family?
Yourself? I'm good.
I'm well. I'm well. Thank you, fam.
Thank you.
All right. Next up here, I got YZL. Is there anything you want to add or any questions you had?
Peaceful greetings, family. It's actually Weiss.
Weiss
Amari.
Weiss, yeah. My apologies.
No, it's all right. It's all good. I don't have any questions. I want to say peace to Toriano ObaShango-El. He's really putting a lot of information, a lot of work. And definitely peace to all the other Moors out here who's been really like on that path of really uplifting our people, because that's what we need. As far as me, myself, and I mean, I came into the understanding of my nationality at the age of like 22 through Taj, and then from there just kept on, climbing up and just building my understanding or overstanding of it all. And I came to understand that a lot of the information that Toriano was shared in the OneDrive allowed me to connect my historical connection from the island of Haiti or Haiti to the actual Moorish Empire and the dominions and all that stuff. So it's definitely there. We are definitely a unified people. And I got my blood evidence done, looked at by that brother Tyrone Lewis Cannon. It's on point. So that's all. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to add a little bit of value with that. Just saying and stating that, yeah, we are here. We're our global family. We talk about one blood, and it's about time that we actually start doing something,
Ashe, family. Thank you, Brother Weiss.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
I got her a sister. Is this Aziz? I don't want to butcher it.
Azizi.
Azizi.
Hello, beloved. Yes, Azizi Bey. How y'all doing?
Azizi, how you doing?
How are you guys? Not really so much to question. I already know very, very well aware of his methods and methodology and his codes of conduct and stuff. And honestly, follow it. Do your due diligence. The only thing that is going to force our people to keep where we are in this deep slumber is the lack of wanting to understand our true knowledge. People don't want to go into history because, as it said, quote unquote, slavery. We didn't start there. As my brother said, prisoners of war. Learn who you are. Help your children address their crown, you know. And when it comes to the matter of DCF or ACS or BCW or whatever the case may be, you have to understand where you stand, because yes, I've had my dealings with them as well, and they understand when I say you have no jurisdiction, please see me in court. They don't want to be bothered. You understand? Know who you are. I was homeschooling my children a year and a half before this pandemic happened, because I already knew of a change that was coming. You understand? It's just on a matter of what you know and apply it. It's one thing to know it, but it's another to apply it. If you don't apply it, what good is it?
Yes, you gotta live that.
But
thank you,
God
love.
bless, thank you. And hi, Tori.
Hey, love, how you doing?
Good in you, my love.
All is well.
Thank you. All right, next up on the screen, I got a Jabril.
Yeah, Islam Nobles, Islam.
Hey, peace and love, brother Jim.
Love Noble, how you got?
All is well, all is well. Gratitude.
No doubt. Yeah, I don't have any questions at the moment, y'all, but me and the chief been rocking for a while now, and definitely going through the process. It's definitely something that we all should do. That way we remain in unison. But it's our time now, y'all, for real. All we gotta do is come together with love first. And we'll definitely make it.
Yeah.
Indeed.
All right, next up we got Jeannie Hollingsworth. You have any questions or anything you'd like to add? You on mute. You muted.
Oh.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Peace, everybody. I don't have any questions, but I do just want to say I appreciate the meeting of the minds to bring all this information together, because we need it out here. We truly do.
You're welcome, beloved. You're welcome. Gratitude for your appreciation.
All right, here we got Christopher. Christopher, you there? Maybe. I don't know. All right, maybe he pops up. We'll go to him. We got Jerome. Jerome?
Yeah, Islam. Yes, I got a couple of point statements to make, to add to it, about the birth certificate. When we
You're breaking up a little bit, brother.
get born in these houses.
Your phone breaking
Am
up.
I still breaking up?
Yeah, you're breaking up. Yeah, you're breaking up. You're breaking up.
All right, let me try to move in a different location.
Nah, you good now.
Am I breaking up now?
No, you good.
No.
Yes. Okay. About the birth certificate. When we get that birth certificate, the first thing that we do is we go take it to the Social Security Administration, and we sign up. And with the Social Security Administration.
You breaking up again.
Yeah.
Hello.
You're breaking up.
Sound like computer love.
That vessel. Yeah, I guess I don't know. Am I still breaking up?
Nah, you good now.
Okay, so when you do that,
Start from the beginning again, because you breaking up.
Okay, when you're born and you get the birth certificate, that birth certificate is it's really, for my opinion, it's a bond to your estate. And we go to the Social Security Administration, they give us a number, and we exchange it and put our estates, which is bonded on their records. If you read the SS 5 form, and then at the bottom when you sign, and then you look at 18, what we are doing, we are joining the entity, and we're not, really saying who we are. because if you look at number 18 on the record, it says, "Who are you? Are you one? Are you separate?" And it gives you a little thing to put other and put authorized representative if you choose to, or authorized agent. When you look at an SS5 form, so we joining it, and that's what we get bonded, because it's two maxims that stick out to me, and the maxim that stick out to me is one of the ones dealing with volunteering and gifting. So we actually given our estate away to the United States, and we volunteer. Them two maxims is the key for Moors. And when we sign things, we sign it unrestricted instead of restricting our signature on all documents. So basically, that's what I had to add on.
Gotcha. All right, brother, I wanted to throw something in on that SS5. I'm not sure if you saw this at the top, number 1, where it asks the name of the party. Underneath that, it said other names used. That is where you can also put the name of the foreign trust, because the trust is going to be acting in the capacity where it owns it.
Right, absolutely, right. And then the name at the top, what they want you to put at the top, is the name that you want your Social Security name to be.
Right.
So yeah,
but behind the scenes, they know what's controlling it.
Right.
And then we turn around and put that lien, and now they understand who's really in control of that entity or that estate or that ens legis.
Right.
Was created. Yeah, it just kind of, I look at it like this, man. What I found interesting was, if we just counted from 1 to 10, 4 comes before 5, and the SS4 is where we go to get the EIN.
Right.
So it should go birth certificate, SS4, SS5.
Right.
So, and that's why my question is always like, man, how can we better move in commerce? My main thing is, what I teach is along the lines of understanding how to operate trust, how to move in trust, how to make sure that your trust is operating in a foreign jurisdiction where a court doesn't have primary supervision over the administration of it, and then we can move solid, right? And then tying in our tribes with it, and like I said, man, I'm just always, I'm quick to listen. I definitely appreciate, the information that everybody's throwing out here, because with this, man, it's like we all got keys, and as long as we are putting these things together, you know what I'm saying? Like we can start really moving in a direction. One, we're establishing a camaraderie amongst each other, but then unity at the same time. So it's beautiful.
Islam.
Peace.
All right, next up, I got Antoine here. Antoine Amos Bay. And then I got 2 Antoines in here.
Ashe, Mo, what's going on, family?
Doing all right. Just getting off the phone with Grand Sheik, man.
Oh, okay. Yep. This is the Moor I was telling you about earlier. This is the other Moor whose child was born untethered to the corporation, who stood on the square with the documents.
Okay.
Where the attorney told him that.
Kudos to you, brother.
Yeah, would you like to share anything, brother, or add anything to the conversation?
I mean, I'm coming in late, so I don't know what the topic of the discussion is.
You can tell us about your experience. That's fine too.
Okay, yeah, the foundation of, I start with, well, basically,
when your daughter was born.
So once my daughter was born, I was at work during the time. My queen ended up calling me and told me that the lady who come around talking about the birth certificate had came in and stated that if we didn't give a name, they can just put a name, whatever name they want to down. So when she told her that, it was kind of like, okay, this is our property. We can name it whatever we want to. So that was the foundation of, that was the reason why I got off, went to the Grand Sheik house, and I talked to Toriano, took all the documentation that I had up that I needed, which was the certified copies from the Library of Congress, the 14th Amendment document, treaties, the treaties, Constitution, Bill of Rights, and the 14th Amendment documents. So when I got in there, the lady, she came in I had my baby in my hand at the time. And the first words that came out of her mouth was, "Is this the man that I need to be talking to?" She was like, "Yes." So once she stepped to me, I said, "Can I speak to someone who knows the law?" Lady was like, "Well, I know a little something about the law. So what do you need to tell me?" And I just went in on it with the documentation that I had. Once I got finished with her, I showed her, who we were by way of public records. And I said that my baby's basically a Moor. She's not a U.S. citizen. And I showed her the fraudulent document of the 14th Amendment showing that the 14th Amendment was unconstitutional. So it kind of made it null and void for her to even be a U.S. citizen. It don't exist. So once I got finished, the lady was like, "Well, this is, you kind of speaking foreign to me. Let me get somebody down here who might know exactly what you're talking about." She got her supervisor. The supervisor came back, and the state attorney, the head state attorney came back, which was a lady. They walked in the room. At the time, my mother-in-law and my other children came in. So they bear witness to it as well. So once they came in, her supervisor was talking to me at first. She said, "So I kind of got a little gist of what my coworker was telling me, but could you tell me like what was stated?" So I broke everything down to her. And the state attorney wasn't talking at the time. She was quiet. Only thing that she told me was her name, basically. So she listening to me. The supervisor was listening to me. She was doing all the conversation. And I ended up, once I got finished breaking it down, she said the same thing that her coworker said, which was, "This is foreign." Like, she didn't know exactly what it was, but I had the documentation in hand to show and prove. So they couldn't go against it. It was like they were stuck in stuck. They was just basically stuck. So she said, "Okay, everything that you have, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back upstairs, talk with the head attorney," which at the time was the lady that was in the room. And we'll come back down with an answer. So when they come back down, the supervisor not talking no more. The state attorney's talking. She basically say, "We reviewed everything that you have, and we see the dilemma." She basically was saying that we see what you're saying. We see that it is fraudulent play in this. And she said that basically what we're gonna do is we're not gonna create a birth certificate for her. But then she said, "Do you want us to create a social security card?" I said, "I don't want a birth certificate nor a social security card." She said, "Okay, we'll respect your wishes." And she said, "Y'all have a lovely baby and have a good day." The lady who came in the first time that was all rah with it, she came back with a certificate of live birth with the footprints on it and said, "We want to let you have this as a token of our appreciation that y'all actually came here to have y'all child." And it didn't have no signature on it. None of our signatures was on it. It just had the baby footprints and the document information from when she was born and what time.
They gave you title.
They gave me the title. So once we got that, at first I thought we was gonna get kicked out of the hospital after what I had did, but shoot, we stayed there because they didn't want to. They don't release a woman until I think it's like 72 hours. So we stayed there 3 days after she was born. But after that, we ain't had no problem, bro. They asked if she want to get shot. No, they said, do you want your baby to have shots? I was like, no, they didn't give us shots, none of that. So we ain't had no problems, bro. At first, it kind of came into a problem, but once I showed them documentation, bro, they stopped.
You held your ground. You held your ground.
Yeah. No more questions.
Yeah, I misquoted you, Brother Antoine. I thought, because I've heard the story, several times. I thought the attorney had said that based on your documents, they were the ones outside the law.
No, she didn't say that. She just basically, she saw the dilemma. She saw what I was saying versus what they was trying to do, and she said, "Yeah, I see what the issue is." So when she saw it, she was just like, "Yeah, we just gotta respect what he's asking for, because we can't push the issue. We can't say that he's a U.S. citizen when he's really not." I had the evidence. It was clean cut. I had the evidence, so they couldn't push it.
And
what
we
I'm
say you
talking
had the
about.
money on you had the money on the wood.
It's
You
long.
made the bet good.
So it was smooth selling after that, bro. I was the only thing I was worried about was I thought they was gonna put us out after that. Thought we had caused the wreckage, bro. Like they should put us out. But no move. They ain't bother us. You know, doctors still came in and did what they had to do. All that.
Share the other story about when Grand Sheik went down there.
Okay. And what's crazy is this: how we knew that public records was actually reading the documents that we sent down. The first people that went down was me, Grand Sheik, Brother Bobby, Brother
Hold on, brother.
Ali.
Can you give a little more context when you say went down? Went down where?
We went down to Travis County Records to put our documentation on public records.
Okay.
So in the first instance, they let it go through. I guess because they didn't read it. So all our documents got put on public records. It was like 5 of us at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We had more brothers that come down. We had 4 more brothers that was trying to put documentation on public records. They got down there, they did it. I didn't go this time. They went down. They put all their stuff on public records. And about a week later, they got a package in the mail as a return with a money order for the payment that they used in order to put their documents on public records.
They returned it.
They returned everything. They was like, oh, no. So the reason why they returned it was because we had the United States and Texas as the debtor, and we were the creditor. That's the reason why they returned it. Like, y'all can't do that.
Hold on 1 second. All right, because when you said public record, I'm thinking that you were putting, maybe some documents on like a miscellaneous file. So you were doing a UCC.
No, the whole package. The whole package. I'm talking about the whole 11-step process that you got to put on public records. That's what we did. The proclamation, the blood, the letter that we sent to the president and the United Nations and the governor, our load of permit, our silver bonds after we had sent them to the Treasury Department and the state Attorney General / Treasury Department. After we did all that, we put all our stuff on public records in Texas. We didn't do it with Pulaski County.
Okay.
So
you putting all that. So you weren't putting liens. When you said debtor and creditor, I'm thinking that you were setting up a lien. Okay.
Oh, the UCC 19 filing, the UCC 1 that we did.
Right. So you were filing that, correct?
Yeah. All that was in the package. All
and that's
that
what
was
they sent back.
Once they seen that they was labeled, the United States and Texas was labeled as the debtor, and we was labeled as the creditor, it was like, nah, y'all can't do that. Because that public records is something. I'm going to tell you this. Grand Sheik told me this. Because he used to work for a law firm back in the days, and he said, one of the biggest law firms in Dallas. He said, every time a case was finished, he had to go get the case authenticated and put it on public records. Because that was the decision of the case. See what I'm saying? So anytime you wanted to use that case in another court, all you had to do was get a certified copy from public records and then court. So once things get on public records, they knew it was law automatically. This is the reason why they denied the Moors when they first came down. They were like, no, you saying that y'all the creditors and we the debtors. They didn't want to hear that. So they got all their documents back. Grand Sheik said, you know what we finna do? We finna do a letter. So we did it. It was going to be an affidavit addressing the issue, and they was talking about mailing it in. She said, no, I think we got to handle this in person. So he did it was like an affidavit, but it was a courtesy letter of what they did wrong. Mail fraud, all that. Going contract fraud, because we had a contract with the Treasury Department. And for us not be able to put it on public records, it kills the contract. You see what I'm saying? So everything that we had did, they tried to kill it by not letting us put it on public records, which we had already did previously before the other 4 Moors who came up. So after we got the letter together, we read it, it was beautiful. Grand Sheik and 2 other individuals, 2 other people that was part of our clan went down. It was just 3 people as witnesses. Said that they got down spoke with the supervisor. Supervisor basically was trying not to put everything on public records But Grand Sheik had them running up and down the stairs to their supervisor. Even the guy that was there, one of the people that put the documents in the records, was like, I never seen my supervisor run up and down these steps like this. Like, I never seen nobody treat him like this. He was like, man, whatever y'all have got him going crazy, type deal. So out of the situation, they was trying to fight them not being able to put the documents on public records. When he showed him that 14th Amendment document up on the seal, and he took it to his boss, they basically told him, let him file what he need to file, and so he can go, because he can basically shut this whole place down, because they operate outside of the law. That was the issue. So he actually got it done, and he got a discount behind it. Like, they actually gave him back funds for coming back down and all that. He's like, shoot, they paid for a meal and everything. So that was the issue with public records. But yeah, we got everything secured. Now individuals in Texas, if they wanted to put their stuff on public records, they can go to Austin and do it without a problem.
That's the reason why
the initial,
we deal with records under seal.
Say it again.
So that was the initial. So that was the first time somebody was trying to go in and put. So I'm guessing part of that is what y'all the tribal status, the national, the status correction, right?
It was a status. Yeah, it was a status correction, but it wasn't the first time. It was the second time we came down.
So the second time they caught it, it was like, oh, okay, too many people trying to walk through this door, and they was like, man, they're trying to find a way to shut the door behind you.
No, I don't think it was that, because they didn't give us a problem. We actually had went down twice.
Okay.
We did a first half filing and then the second half filing once we got our silver bonds and everything. So we filed everything, but we got them up on two different instrument numbers. But the brothers who came down, the load that came down after we did everything, they had all their documentation as one. So they had to read it in order for them to know that we had them as the debtor. You see what I'm saying?
Mm.
So that was the main reason why they said, oh, no, y'all can't do that. Y'all got us as the debtor. But the 14th Amendment document shows the reason why they are who they say that they are, along with other documentation that we have.
That's the reason why we get records under seal, y'all.
Sure.
Got a question. So anywhere. So all right, I'm trying to I'm understanding the process, and I'm seeing where there's. So let's say a person has their birth certificate, it's authenticated. Because what I'm seeing is ways in which you can also bring in the UCC. I mean, part of it is already. It's perfected without filing automatically the moment you take possession.
Well, with the birth certificate, the silver bond covers that, because all chattel property falls up under the silver bond. It's a contract,
right?
With consideration. So you really don't even have to authenticate a birth certificate. It's like and me and Toriano and I went through this. We went back and forth over it, but I'm in agreements with him on the simple fact that all authentication is for traveling purposes only. So when individuals start talking about the full faith and credit, they think they're talking about money, but in actuality, it's referring to this document can be used in other states. That's all it's really pertaining to. It's all it's pertaining to. So when it comes to the authentication of a birth certificate, you really don't have to do that, because it's basically saying that we're making this fraudulent document legal. We're recognizing this fraudulent document as a real document, and it's really not. Does that make sense?
Wait, hold on. I'm trying to make sure I understand. So you're saying when a person is authenticating their birth certificate, you're saying that they're making it legal?
They're making something that's fraudulent real. I'm gonna give you this example. I'm gonna say this. What makes a contract?
Two parties, full consideration, signatures from both parties, and something of equal value being exchanged.
Okay, what makes the birth certificate a contract?
There's a signature. However, I'm not saying that the birth certificate is a valid contract. That's proof of the fraud. But it's also, the way I look at it, is also your way of being able to get the state and have the state as a party to the fraud. Because the state's name
is the party to the fraud. Okay, so we get to a point though. So according to a contract and who it affects, according to who in the process of a contract, whoever it affects, they must sign. Is that correct?
Whoever it affects, I'm challenging the concept of, is it a contract or more so a title?
No, it is. No, I'm going to tell you the reason why it's a contract. But I gotta hit you with that question first before I even tell you the reason why I'm asking you. Is it a contract based off the ignition of it being I said that wrong.
It's proof of fraud because the person was under disability to contract. That's my
they're minors, exactly. And
that's in my injunction.
And there's
but that gives you the ability to put the state as the debtor and put them back in their place, because that's proof of the fraud. So if it's authenticated and conveyed into your foreign trust with a lien on it and an injunction in place, now you can travel unencumbered. Like you ain't got nothing to really worry about, because you weren't your birth certificate, you were a baby, so you were under disability to contract.
Most definitely. But they forced a signature by way of my footprint.
Exactly.
Most definitely.
And that's what they're doing for everybody out here who, for most of us, I mean, we got the game now, so we can, we can contract differently. Go ahead, continue. Are you?
So with that being said, proving the point of fraud, that makes that contract void ab initio from the beginning. That's the reason why I don't authenticate the birth certificate.
Got you. And so you don't put no lien on it. I see where you come from with it. I do things a little bit differently. I view it as a proof of fraud, right? But it's also a title to an estate. It's an ins legis. It's a court. It's no different than when a person, if you were setting up a LLC through the state, they're gonna give you your paperwork for creating the business, right? Sure. That's how I look at that birth certificate, right? As who owns it. It's a title. It's like a deed, right? And so
see that's the way it was explained to me as well, bro. I totally understand what you're saying. It's kind of like the title to an automobile, who holds the manufacturer certificate of origins.
Right.
So and long form versus the birth certificate. I get what you're saying.
Right. And within the UCC, it specifies the fact of authenticating perfection security interest in it. And so that's the whole reason why, for me, the authentication was, all right, these instruments are created. They are trying to attach. I did a name change as well. So that created my separation and from my family as well. And I put my tribal documents on record with it. But that instrument is still what they try to attach you to. And so I look at it when operating in commerce is I've snatched back the ownership of it, the title to, my estate, or, the estate that was created on my behalf without me, right, sign anything to. I snatched that back. I threw a lien on it and conveyed it to a foreign jurisdiction. So now no judge has the ability to administrate over it, because that's creating a domestic trust.
Go ahead. I'm gonna add something to what you're saying after that.
Go ahead.
To clarify what Brother Antoine is saying.
Go ahead.
The reason why we don't authenticate, because fraud vitiates all forms of contract and makes it void ab initio. That's number one. And nothing can be gained from a fraud. That's number two. Number three, under the Uniform Commercial Code, UCC 1-103 is your protection from the fraud. Number four, when you authenticate or apostille, and you go to the U.S. Department of State, it strictly says on their form that it has to be used for a country that's not a part of The Hague. And it's actually to be used in that system over there, not to be used domestically. That's on the U.S. Department of State's website. So it says that authentication, has no bearing over here.
That's correct. So, remember, we could be here and still be considered to be foreign. You guys just make that. You made that.
I understand that, but my question is this: How are you using it in the system? Because you have to name a system of a nation state that is going to be used there. You understand what I'm saying? Are you going to school? Are you on foreign exchange?
Wait. Repeat that. Come back a second. Repeat that again.
Okay.
I'm not understanding your question.
When you go to the U.S. Department of State and they tell you about authentication.
No, I got that. You asked a question. That the question wasn't it wasn't registered.
Okay. How are you using that authentication? Are you a student in another nation state? Are you on a peace mission? Whatever it is, you understand what I'm saying? It's for the physical travel and use of that in that system. That's the reason why the authentications have numbers on them, so that way the U.S. Department of State can track when that number enters into the foreign nation state system to be used as it is decreed by the various methodologies that they have on the U.S. Department of State's website. And this is what I was talking to people about. At any point in time, if they wanted to pull that number to see if that was used in that foreign nation state's system, as was allotted according to the U.S. Department of State's guidelines, and it's not, then that's a double vitiation, because the document is already a fraud. And not only that, there was a lie told saying that it was going to be used in that nation's system. That's the reason why we got to be careful with that. To me, blood and common law is the best way out. Natural law, blood, and common law is the best way out.
Most definitely. I'm not negating that at all.
Yeah.
Operate underneath.
When you start playing around with their statutory jurisdiction,
but
there could be a problem.
We agree that whenever we move in commerce, their aim and their attempt is to bring you into that statutory jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely, right? Whether that be via statutes, ordinances, or codes. And so their main go-to is attaching, it doesn't matter who you say you are, their goal is to attach you to said that ends legis, right? And so for me, exposing and putting a lien on that entity and conveying it separates me from that and shows that the trust owns it, I don't, and I'm separate from it.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota Rule 220 kind of goes into what the whole birth certificate game really is, and it explains how to really go about operating and controlling it. That's where my, from me, my derived from Minnesota Rule 220, and then just reading the perfection of security interest in chattel paper, commercial paper, which that it falls under the lines of that as well. And so, and then this is just a small part, right? And when I say how are y'all moving in commerce, this is that's part of how I move in commerce, to make sure that when I'm conducting commerce, one, only my trust appears. Two, if anything does come up, I can show proof of the fact that I'm separate from their jurisdiction via, if it's my tribal documents that's on the county record. The same things. I'm guessing that from what you guys are doing, how do you travel internationally?
Excuse me, I'm eating. We're in the process of dealing with that now, but we've already done the international process all the way up to The Hague through notary presentment. Brother Antoine can tell you about that now. They've already covered that aspect for our government.
True. Yeah, we basically we did a document, we sent it out to 13 entities that deal with international travel. We sent it to the FBI, we sent it to the Secretary of State, sent it to Morocco, the ambassador of Morocco, we sent it to the United Nations, The Hague. Who else? It's a Customs and Border Patrol, TSTC. Who else? The DMV. Who's over the DMV? All the heads of states that deals with these certain departments. In the process, after we got finished with it, we ran it in the newspaper. We did it by way of notary presentment. ran in a newspaper for a certain amount of time, and then we put it on public records. It's documentation.
And the documentation is what is the goal in it for your tribe to be able to establish its own travel documentation, or is it for them to be able to recognize you when you come through the ports? What are you requesting?
The whole thing.
Yeah.
The whole thing. Not only that, it was also authenticated.
Okay. And so what is the what was the resolve? Well, what's the response been?
The only people who responded was the Pentagon. And the Pentagon, they responded by resending the document that they opened up that we sent to them.
So they sent
after they did that, we resent the same document back to them. They was basically saying that we sent the document to the wrong place. No, we didn't.
I got a question. All right. So I like, for me, I'm always looking for ways to create solutions or find ways around the obstacles. And this is using the Clearfield doctrine, understanding that corporations can ascend to operating as government, and government can from operating as government to being mere corporations.
True.
Have you thought to operate underneath a corporation status and then approach the Department of State and Consular Affairs to be recognized, not as a tribe, but as a business on a mission?
I'm trying to get the question.
I basically said put a corporate face on it and try to approach them. Yes, you can do that. We have some people that are doing that already, but the thing about it is, you have to understand that once you serve them privately, you run the full gamut of the private administrative process, and you close it out and you bring it public, and everything is done through a notary. That notary, man, has statutory power underneath United States statutes at large, HStat 459. And when they say that there's been no response, and then it's authenticated through the state, it already has the Secretary of State authenticated. Am I right, Brother Antoine?
Yes.
You're right.
It already has Article 4, Section 1 constitutional power.
Mm-hmm. And we also attached the 25-page 14th Amendment studies with it. So it's packed. It's loaded.
I'm just trying to understand how you're able to not how you're able to, but like, are they giving you issues when you travel, right? If you wanted to go overseas.
I've never tried. I haven't tried. I'm not going to sit up and tell you no story or nothing. But the only thing I've tried, or should I say, the only thing I've done with it is I've used it to purchase things. Like I just purchased some ties. I got my non-tax tax removed from my purchase. Different things like that. I got a job with it. I was traveling one time with it, and I got pulled over by the state trooper. But hold up, before I say that, I didn't actually have my nationality card with me when I got pulled over. I just had the certified documents under seal with me, and I got let go. So that was a big difference.
So one of the things that so I'm in the Illinois Republic, and one thing I noticed here, not too far from where Chicago is, and the way that they're trying to hammer people here is, like I said, one of the main things that's attaching them back to the birth certificate, and then they try to restrict travel, right? And it's to me that it's the way that people are doing commerce, right? So we're saying that we're separate, but then we're using the same numbers that are attached to those entities when we are, purchasing assets or property, instead of putting it up underneath the trust.
Indeed. I mean, but that's the way all things should be operating, up under the trust itself. So just like you were saying, having problems, having any traveling problems, I feel like everything should be up under the trust in order to not have those problems in the first place. Because,
and not only that.
This is Reginald L. Peace more, this is Reginald L.
Let me say this, Brother Reggie, real quick. Not only that, they're hammering those people because they are not getting those documents under seal.
Right.
You got to have the stuff under seal.
So for me, the only thing I have under seal is my tribal documents, and I just did that so that I can switch up the Social Security Administration with the SS5 to record my adjust, and it's not really mine, but adjust how that contract was set to change the citizenship, to make my trust take it over, and then also the how is not viewed as being Black or African American. And so from that, it's like the way that I see it could be done if we don't want to have any issues when traveling or even with commerce. I mean, dealing with, I'm not sure if anybody's dealing with the IRS, but you work in a job, right? There's ways in which, you know, these things can happen without having certain things. Even it's great to have it under seal. What I'm saying is, even without it being under seal and everything being conveyed to a foreign jurisdiction, they see that when they run it, right? Because remember, everything goes through the Secretary of State, but it all disseminates from also the Department of State as well. And so if we're moving in trust and your trust owns the car, that means that if you did have a plate on there, right? Let's say you wanted to stay public and you had a plate, your trust name comes up as the owner of the property. So now they can't run a name to attach, because once they run a name, then they got where you domicile, or they got, you know, your information. They're going to assume that you're underneath that jurisdiction.
Yes, okay.
And
let me add on to something what you're saying. When I say records under seal, I'm not talking about our own personal records. We automatically get our certified copies of what we put on the record. I mean the actual documents coming from the Library of Congress, the National Archives and Record Administration, and the various state archives. So what happens is, I'm gonna give you an example of what I'm getting ready to do when I get ready to exercise my right to travel. I have all of these documents demonstrating the 14th Amendment, the bankruptcy, and the democracy under seal. I'm going to the Department of Motor Vehicles. When I go in there and expose the fraud, they already have to give you remedy. There's no that, well, let us think about it. No, once you expose the fraud, they have to grant you remedy. That's the reason why we deal with the U.S. Department of National Archives, Record Administration, and the Library of Congress, because these things come under official seals, as well as Georgia State Archives and various other archives dealing with the seal. Now they have to take a look at what you have, and they got to provide you a remedy. He who creates the liability must also afford the remedy.
Gotcha. I'm just trying to, like, all right, if you
now hold on. Now where this comes in with the trust, you take those documents and you deposit them into your trust as part of the trust corpus.
So from my experience, I have no issues with them now. Like, man, I don't have my tags, there's no tags on it. The only thing I have is a license plate so that they run it and they see the name of the trust. And the trust comes up as foreign. But there's ways in which you can now utilize the Constitution, which there's provisions in there where it specifies that no state can pass a law that impairs the obligation to a contract.
Article 1, Section 10. Correct.
And that is the trust agreement is a contract. So that there is protection for me. I was like, I'm not trying to go stir a pot that doesn't need to be stirred. For me, it's more so, okay, I need to move. I need to make sure that when I move, no one's sticking their hands in my pocket. And what protections can I put in play? One of those is the trust, making sure that all assets are under the control of the trust. Second was trust.
We're saying the same thing.
Yeah, Islam. This is Reginald L. You basically what you're describing, basically what I'm seeing you describing is almost similar to a secure party process, but your contract is your trust. With the process that we do with the 11-step process, with those the surety bonds are the contract that we have, and all of those instruments that you're discussing, to include driver's license, passports, birth certificates, and all that is wrapped up in that surety bond.
So that would be part of the security agreement.
It is the security agreement as well. So that is a part of it, and it's also backed by blood. So That's the reason why. And when we're moving in commerce, even though we have those instruments, just like the brother just talked about, I'm in the Illinois Republic as well, and I would like to hook up with you to build with you. And I've been stopped by the state trooper. Matter of fact, the last time I was traveling to Missouri territory and then Arkansas territory, I was stopped close to Marion in the Illinois territory by the state trooper.
Okay.
Okay, I had private tags. I had private Morse tags on there. I handed him my nationality card and an ID. I didn't give him any documentation of under seal of my documents. I just gave him my nationality card and ID. And eventually he asked me if I had a driver's license. I said, yes, I do. And I gave it to him. But because all of our stuff is on public record and I've been active working with operating in commerce with the city of Chicago and all of the other municipalities around here to include copying the governor and the attorney general here as well when I'm doing the private administrative process. My record is flagged. They looked at it and they went and pulled my documents. He went back and looked at it, ran my stuff, came back, not even 5 minutes later, said, here you go, sir, have a nice day.
Right.
And keeping it moving. Okay.
Right. And so you gave him something he could look at, right? And I'm not sure how you contracted with the driver's license. And my thing is, like, as long as we are operating and going to contracts, making sure that we're reserving rights on the driver's license.
Yeah. And my rights are reserved on all my documents, my passport and everything.
Is he was trying to find a way to force contract upon you. You're operating private, so he needed something on the public to identify who you were.
Right.
And the UCC is the segue into the public. So, I mean, you could have directed him to that if the UCC was on file. And then he would have been able to see everything he needed to see and then let you go. But you had the rights reserved on the driver's instrument itself.
Yes, that's correct.
And he had to let you go because even if you wrote a ticket, you would show up and say, hey, I reserve my rights and none of this stuff stands in law because there's a party, right?
That's right.
It's all being disconnected back to the Constitution. So my thing is like trying to keep it as simple as possible, put together processes so that our people that are being violated have a way to where they can, do quick processes, study, of course, but then have protection so that they can continue studying and not have to worry about trying to get themselves out of jams. Right. That's my main, that's like the main focus. And I appreciate, you all sharing. I see you guys are like very, very well versed in law and understand how important the Constitution is, how important the treaties are, and make sure that they're enforced. And now it's just finding ways in which we can operate in commerce. We can do commerce together, but creating those entities that if they are going to, operate like a government or if they're going to operate like a trust. So we have those barriers of protection. That's what I'm looking to create. So that, we have those tribal protections on our individual level, but then also in the public side, they already know when they run our name, all of this, the information comes up, right? My way of doing that is going through the Department of State and including all of that into the passport. So now the Department of State is getting all of the information. The same things that sounds like you guys are putting on public record, making sure that goes along to the Department of State. And now with those affidavits and making sure you contract properly on the DS, the DS-11, then now you can travel and now you wouldn't even need to give the driver's license. You can pass on the passport card and they're going to tell them don't even mess with you because you're not underneath that jurisdiction. You're now reconnected to the Republic. My thing is, man, that's where they're trying to hammer people, when people are traveling or the moment they ask for their ID, people, I'm not giving the ID, this and that. My thing is now, I got the ID. If they ask for it, here you go, because now my fee schedule comes into play.
Right. Yeah, all of that is wrapped up in the bonds as well as the UCC. Now, here's the thing about the DS-11. We had a Moore that went through the methodology you're talking about. He used that methodology. And he wanted to see exactly what type of passport he had. And when he wrote the Department of State, it came back as a United States citizen. And they told him, according to the Immigration and Nationality Act, the only types of passports that they can issue. So my question is, do you have something from the U.S. Department of State that tells you exactly what type of passport you have?
That specifies the type of passport I have?
Yes.
I would say
do you have
it's based upon,
do you have
they're not going to just write you something and say, okay, yeah, you're not a U.S. citizen. However, the way that the contracts are drafted in it, it's almost like their silence acquiesced, therefore establish the fact that I'm not a 14th Amendment citizen. Okay,
and
so
he thought the same thing too, but it came back that it was the United States citizen passport.
I'm not familiar with the process that he did. However, what I have to also, that's one layer. But what I can say based on that is I've helped people who've been in court cases one person was facing 15 years. And it was a constitutional challenge in the passport process. And then boom, the DA no longer had a case. She was going up against the Secretary of State Police, a corporation, and the state's attorney, right? And with just doing the passport process and a constitutional challenge, all charges and everything was just dropped, and they paid back the bond money, right? So it's not, I don't necessarily need a document from the Department of State. I see how they treat it when I show it. I see how they treat it when other people show it. I mean, a friend of mine just got reimbursed by Chicago PD because they tried to violate him. And then they ran it on the second time because they tried to trump 9 charges on him, right? They trumped him with 9 charges, tried to send him out to Skokie where they were going to try to get a conviction. The judge said, oh, we can't prosecute him. Sent him out. He went back to the police department to get his stuff. They tried to arrest him again in the precinct. And then they ran his ID this time and said, yo, are you the feds? Why can't we arrest you? Like, that's what came up in their screen, that they couldn't arrest him. And so they then gave him back his stuff. He had some marijuana, all kinds of, they gave all of that back to him. Well, hemp, I won't say marijuana. They gave him back to hemp because marijuana is under contract. But they gave him all the stuff back and a check for his $800 that they tried to take from him. And so what I'm saying is, like, man, certain things, their system will never express defeat. Because the moment they do that, and I mean, I could send a document where it specifies that, I forget who it was. It was somebody with one of the secretaries in the Department of State. There's a letter that explained what needed to be sent with the passport application in order to get the status in there. And that's all I do. I go along with that. So like I said, I can't speak to that brother's process on how he did his passport, but the way I did mine, the way I do it for other people, and the way I seen other people, move. And if they get stopped, they're getting stopped because the police run their plate and think that they're getting ready to get a U.S. citizen. But then when they walk to the window, they get the passport. It's like, damn, okay, I got to let you go. However, had the car been in trust, they wouldn't even pulled it over. So what I'm saying is it's layers to the protections. And then that way it's like, man, they're not even really wasting our time because they already seeing, oh, man, that's a trust. I don't even want to open that can of worms.
Okay.
Can I add something more?
Yeah.
Peace.
I have a cousin. I have a cousin that's I'm originally from Alabama, bro, but I'm in Texas now. So I have a cousin that's a postmaster general in the post office, and I asked her various questions about passport. I basically told her about the 14th Amendment document. I told her
none of that.
That we was indigenous.
Need to know basis. Go ahead, bro.
Say it again.
I said they're not going to really know too much about that. They keep the people working at the passport agencies in the dark.
Basically, when I asked her the question, she said her statement was, "Well, we can't deal with anything foreign. Everything that we do is based off of domestic."
Right, and their definition of domestic means here, but every state is foreign to each other. You see what I'm saying? The Illinois Republic is foreign to the District of Columbia. That's a state. So their understanding of domestic, they've been taught one way because the postmasters, anybody working at the post office, they are agents for the U.S. Postal Service or U.S. Post Office, right? So they're on a need-to-know basis. Just like I got a friend that works with the IRS, and she already told me, if you work in one department of IRS, they will not let you transfer departments. They won't let you know anything that goes on in any other department because they don't want people learning the game. You get what I'm saying? So, I don't really, the most I'll do is just educate a person when I go there, because they trying to figure out why I'm sending all these documents along with the DS-11, and they're like, well, they're not gonna give it to you because, you know, you added this extra stuff, or you didn't, you know, sign this way, or you didn't check that you was a U.S. citizen on your parents' thing. Like, but they issue it out, and I go back and show them, like, there's another way to go about doing this, you know, and it's just, you know, just understanding like what is the goal. For me, the goal is make sure that we can maximize the amount of right now fiat that we're bringing in, flip it into something tangible, as if that's going to be, you know, property that goes into the tribal trust or into gold and silver. And that way, when all of this stuff, you know, the global currency reset happens, we back in a position where we can start snatching stuff up.
I got a couple people on here who definitely been waiting to say something.
My apology. I'm gonna take it easy. Everybody ask that question.
All right. I know Ali West said they had some pertinent information that they want to share. Atoya has a question. Anthony said something. Keisha Perry had something she said. So I kind of want to go into these people and let them ask their questions or share what they were trying to share. So Ali West, are you still there?
Yes. Peace and love, family. Ali West El Bay. I'm part of the Autochthonous Blood Right Air group with Toriano. So pertinent information, I'll make it quick. For anybody interested in this process, anyone who has not corrected their status, proclaimed their nationality, I just want to let y'all know, first and foremost, if you do not know the difference between the republic and the democracy, everything else will only confuse you further. Straight up. I see a lot of people go down the wrong road because they don't know where the line is drawn in the sand, and it'll come back and bite you in the ass. Along with that, my brothers Antoine, Toriano, they touched on a lot of things, talking about the Hague Convention, authentication of the birth certificate, so on and so forth. I definitely understand what the brother was saying. However, I do just want to caution you, because they will find a way to stop that. I've seen them do it with other processes, even something as simple as using commerce and trying to, you know, use consumer protection acts, and they put a stop to that shit too, where people were getting their little checks and moving around. My favorite maxim of law that applies to this pertinent information is you cannot use a fraud to conceal a fraud, period. So I see a lot of that going on. You cannot own anything that the democracy created. We are from the republic. And what we are trying to do as a group, as a tribe, is go through de jure law. You don't want to have one foot in and one foot out, because really and truly no man can serve two masters. So you're either part of the de facto or you're part of the de jure government. There really is no in between. And most importantly, you got to stand on your 5 principles. If you're going to lie like they lie, you're not standing on your principles. You feel me? So when it comes to authentication, you have to lie. If you don't have business overseas, if you don't travel overseas, it's the same thing with the SF-181 form. If you are not a federal employee, you are lying by filling that out. You can't create your own box. It's a race and ethnicity form. If there's only one human race, then why are you adding something that it's not applicable to the form? You see what I'm saying? So I just wanted to caution those out there listening, know the difference between the republic and the democracy, and stand on your principles. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, always. That's all I got to say, family.
Peace, sister, peace. Who else is in here? Jerome, did you want to talk something about that Rule 220 as it applies?
About that Rule 220 is a Caucasian guy that created that whole process, and he gave testimony that when he was in court, they shut him down because it applies to Taurans, he said. So that 220, he said, stay far away from that that process.
Mm.
So that's all I wanted to add. And to me, like the bond, along with the blood, shut everything down. Because once you prove life, once you prove that, you know, you have that blood on the table, it shut all court procedures down. I went to court and put my bond on the table and my blood in the 14th Amendment, and it shut the court down. As a matter of fact, they didn't even want to file my stuff into the court.
Mm.
They just shut it down and let me go because it shut everything down, because corporations don't have blood. And what they doing is, we up under what they call military doctrine. And what they shut the people out of the Union, the Republic. And in order for you to access the court, it's only one court that you can access in terms of Article 3, and that's the Supreme Court. That Supreme Court has original jurisdiction, and they shut the people down without the proper political status and without you knowing what jurisdiction you operate in.
Is anybody operating under diversity of citizenship when you deal with these people?
Well, that's what it is. We operate, that's your political status, diversity of citizenship, and you go and the Supreme Court have original jurisdiction.
Right.
They got the Article 1 courts, which is that's ruling, which is the military courts. There's very few people that access the true court. What I'm saying, without your political status.
Right, and so they're snatching you all into those courts, and you're trying to exercise the diversity of citizenship. They're not honoring it, right? Certain things you're trying to submit, they won't let you file it, right? So now the question comes into, why not show proof of claim, or not proof of claim, but the fact that you own or are not own, but are in control of the entity that they're trying to bring in.
That's what the bond do. It controls all of that, and it's got the fee connected
so we're saying, so you're calling it a bond, but that really is your security agreement. So your security agreement is what you're saying you're submitting, and that gets them to realize, oh, he's controlling the estate. Now,
with the blood that takes you out of the corporation, because all courts in the United States outside of Article 3 only can deal with legal fiction. They cannot deal with flesh and blood beings. Right. And once and they've got plenty codes and all of your states saying just that they can only deal with legal fictions. They cannot deal with flesh and blood beings. That's why it's what they call it, an realm process. It's an in realm process.
Okay.
So when you look at Article 3, Section 2, Article 3, Section 2, subsection 1, it's a common law jurisdiction and it's an equity jurisdiction. Most people stay on what they call common law, what they merged it into a military jurisdiction. Very few people goes into equity.
I mean, equity is where they're really bringing you, and they disguise that under criminal, because in equity it's all based on contract.
What they did, they mixed equity with the common law. That's not the true jurisdiction. The true jurisdiction is exclusive equity. When you get into the exclusive equity, that's when you're dealing with the Article 3 courts, the Supreme Court. See, they got you. They got.
It's all they're trying to bring you in underneath some type of criminal act where there's no injured party. So when you address that, if you decide to address that, and you don't go the route of just bringing up jurisdiction, then it comes down to really contract, right? So now we're talking equity, right?
But
all crimes are commercial.
Right, but equity enforces the contract. But equity deals with the remedy of right and wrong, giving you a remedy. Common law deals with the contract per se, because we up under what they call the maritime jurisdiction, which is international law dealing in contracts.
The UCC, that's how I look at it.
Right. Well, the UCC, but it's dealing strictly with contracts.
Right. So the way to beat them is, one, like you guys have said, state the fraud. Two, show the fact that they don't have jurisdiction over the entity.
Well, they created the entity.
But they don't have jurisdiction the moment. And then
No, but what I'm saying is Congress created the vessel, the entity. Up under their article, what is it, Title 15, 1602. Congress created that entity, which is the birth certificate, that vessel. When it says the state of at the top of that document, anything that comes up under it, Congress have claims on it. So what you have to do, you have to bond that up like we do. We bond it up and take control of it.
Sound like we're saying the same thing.
Right, we saying the same thing. That's why when you, a lot of times when you
go about doing it, because you're saying the same thing. I'm just using it underneath. The way I bonded mine up was using the UCC. Same documents you guys are specifying, same documents. I just threw that into the UCC and threw my fee scheduling with it. And it's easier for me to reference and show them on a public record. Like this is where public and private come in, right? We know our blood and our nationality, our status, that's us in the private. But the public wants to try to drag you in there. And so you got to be able to put the public on notice with certain things. And you guys, I mean, you guys are saying that you guys can do it with, you know, the documents under seal and your surety, which is your security agreement. That's what is getting the remedy. What I'm saying is you can also get your status into that Department of State with your passports and now be able to move. And now you don't have to worry about being dragged in there. Even if you drive, look, one of the persons I got the passport for, he don't even have no driver's license. And CPD knew that. And that's why they pulled him over to try to put out charges on him. Nothing. Had to let him go. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we know that we don't have to have these licenses and things that the public requires. It's just, are our documents being recognized, right? So now we coming from the private and shipping that into the public so the public can be aware and be like, oh, okay, he not under that jurisdiction. Oh, we can't bother him. We can't hit him with that because, you know, he can't be forced into that contract because he reserved his rights to the Constitution in this contract that we tried to trick him up in. That's all I'm saying. And that's what I feel like status correction and understanding contracts is super important. It sounds like we all saying similar things, just we're going about it in an interesting.
Yeah, I would say, man, we're probably about 90% parallel. The thing about it is, you said that you bonded it up with the UCC. How did you bond it up with the UCC?
Via security agreement. You guys are calling it a surety bond. I used I did a security agreement. I have my silver surety bonds.
Okay, stop right there. Stop right there. That's the bond. The UCC, you can't bond it up with the UCC. That just gives notice that there's a security interest.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's how the public recognizes me. We have that. That's the last part of the problem. We've been doing that. We're doing that for years. Yeah, but first you have to bond it up. You have to issue a bond. Not only that, you have to have something of substance, intrinsic value back in that to induce them to contract. Then after the contract is secured, then we come back and put the security interest, i.e. the non-UCC 1 filing against that. The security agreement is written in the terms, conditions, stipulation, and agreements of the bond, the surety bond, backed by the precious metal. Right, exactly. And the interest, I know here in the Illinois Republic, when dealing with they corporate setup, non-UCC is solely for real estate. Real property, I mean, their definition of real estate, but that's why I say that birth certificate is proof of real estate. Even if we didn't create it, somebody created it on our behalf, it was fraudulent, it's still able to, it's like a title. So that you can still.
I have to disagree with you on that. And the reason being is because they define what real estate is. Real estate is immovable property. It's immovable property. A birth certificate falls underneath chattel paper. That's movable property.
And it's expressing title though.
Yes, but it doesn't matter. You can have title in immovable property or movable property. Immovable property, along with its what's called permanent fixtures, is the real estate. Movable property falls, chattel paper falls underneath what's called movable property. So it can fall underneath what they call real estate because it's transferable. Negotiable instrument.
So my question then is, how are you doing a non-UCC?
Hold on, let me finish. The birth certificate is transferable. It's negotiable. So it falls underneath movable property. How we doing a non-UCC? I have specific verbiage in there that deals with the landmarks. It deals with the landmarks, and it deals with the biblical statutes, and it deals with treaty, and it deals with who we are as blood tied to this soil. That's why we do non-UCCs. We're the de jure owners of the land. Remember the two maxims of law I mentioned to you? Land lying unoccupied is given to the first occupant. What land belongs to no one, by natural reason, belongs to the first occupant. And I gave you the Bible verses and the statute where they passed the Bible into law that deals with landmarks. i.e. landmarks dealing with real estate.
Interesting. Like for me, it seemed like we're. It's interesting hearing your the process, and the question comes down to just how is it affecting the ability to do commerce? Really, that's for me.
Brothers have, like I said, brother Eliyahu, brothers already have trust set up. They have, foreign trust set up, and they have the counterpart to operate in the democracy that is tied to the foreign trust. So we already have trust set up. That's all of this stuff has been done. They have the EINs for it.
Gotcha. All right, that's what it is. That's what's up.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely want to hit these questions up. I mean, we pulling at the 3-hour mark here. Toya, could you go on and ask your question? I see you had a question here. Toya, you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Hey, peace.
Greetings. How you doing, sister?
Good. How are you all? Eliyahu, hello again. I had the opportunity to speak with you the other day on the podcast.
How you doing?
And Toriano, good. And Toriano, I've been communicating with you via email, YouTube, and I've also started your 11-step process. So thank you guys for everything that you're putting out there for everybody.
Not a problem.
My question is, I'm not slow, but it's a lot of information. It's a little overwhelming. So do you guys have any suggestions as far as like where people should start in terms of like jurisprudence? What are some things that you would recommend people look into first? Because I try to get into a lot of the information, but it's just so much. I mean, we have maxims of law, we have, the Bible, you have all of these different things, and it's just overwhelming for somebody like me because, I like to read, but I'm not like a reader like that. So if you guys have any suggestions for people as far as like where to start, that would be very helpful, and anybody else who wants to chime in. And also, I'm really excited to see all the women on the podcast tonight. That makes me excited because I don't see y'all often. So, hello, everyone.
Yes, ma'am. I'll take that, Brother Eliyahu. I set up a syllabus on my website. It's called Project Warm Code. And the first thing for one to understand, like I said, we have to understand civics. We have to educate ourselves in civics. Project Warm Code addresses a plethora of the issues that once you study everything under Project Warm Code, you will have a clear, cut, and concise comprehension of the difference between the republic and the democracy. And below Project Warm Code, there is another section that deals with droit, jus sanguinis, and jus soli, blood birthright. Both of them on the same side of the page, on the home page, and that addresses many of the archaeological, genetic, morphological, anthropological studies of who we are on the land, as well as the Bible verses and the statute itself. It passed it into law, these various things. So before you execute any type of documentation, or if you have begun, and you before you start to navigate, understand who you are first and your relationship to what was originally established and what is currently operating. And I address all of that under Project Wamco and Droid you Sanguinus, you solely status on my site.
Right. I would suggest definitely anytime I come across anybody who's new to any of this information, I always start with just having them read through the Declaration of Independence in its entirety to really see how they were being affected. To understand one of the main things that was happening was that the people were being placed into a jurisdiction that was foreign to their constitution. And so from that, I would definitely encourage studying the Constitution. Honestly, that's one of the documents that really opened up my eyes to some of the things that is, we've been talking about like real money, gold and silver. Those things are in the Constitution. The diversity of citizenship that we talked about. Once you're understanding what your rights are, and the fact that you now may realize that you don't really have rights, now comes the part of understanding how do we protect our rights. Now, our rights can be protected in a few different ways. That could be via status correction. That could be via us just understanding what our rights are and making sure that we contract where we are reserving our rights. Is that giving you a little bit more understanding to go from as far as where to start?
Yes, that's helpful.
Okay. Right. So what it sounds like is definitely part of what he's saying is just know first what you're doing as far as what the information is, and then begin the status correction. And I definitely agree with what he's saying with that is make sure first you know what it is that is going on with status correction, becoming the beneficiary to the original jurisdiction, connected to the land. Right. Being able to be connected back to the land, and so that you can make sure that you have all your inalienable, unalienable rights secured. Because really, that's really what we're getting at, right? We want to make sure that we can operate and move freely, where we're not being violated, and we actually have our rights protected. At least for me, that's my goal, and that's what has driven me this far.
Let me add on to that, Brother Eliyahu. One of the blood right heirs who stays up there in the Illinois territory. Hopefully you guys will be able to connect. And when you do, I'm going to tell him to show you some documentation that's going to pretty much shut all of this down, the entire democracy. I'm not going to give that documentation out on the phone. I'll just, when the blood right heir is there, I'll make sure he shows that to you.
Most definitely. I appreciate that. I definitely
yeah.
All right.
That's me more Reginald L. We have to link up, or you guys plug in here contact information so I can reach out. Peace and love.
Yes. Please, if anybody would share while we doing this, share their email address on this chat line, and then we can share it that way. Everybody can kind of take them down from there. I'll copy and paste them and send them out as well. Keisha Perry, you had a question? Oh, you had a comment?
Yeah. I was wondering about the two verses that whoever spoke about earlier. It was Proverbs and Deuteronomy.
Oh, yes. You talking about for the landmarks?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a pen?
Yep.
All right. Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 14. Deuteronomy chapter 27, verse 17. Proverbs 22, verse 28. And Proverbs 23, verse 10.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Amir Bey has a question.
Yeah, peace, everybody.
Peace.
Greetings. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I got a question for Brother Toriano.
Yes.
I done been talking to you lately a lot, and I done went through the 11-step process. But my question was, I've been trying to get these documents under seal, but I ain't been able to get them under seal. And
okay,
it was kind of crazy to me that, you know what I'm saying, this call or this call came out of nowhere tonight. You know what I'm saying, because I'm getting ready to have a, you know what I'm saying, bring a baby in, you know what I'm saying, like the end of this month, maybe beginning of the year or whatever, you know what I'm saying. I've been trying to get everything in line, you know what I'm saying. So it's kind of crazy that, you know what I'm saying, that those babies, those two brothers have bringing those two babies in, you know what I'm saying, was the topic of the conversation at first, you know what I'm saying. Like I really needed to hear that, you know what I'm saying. So I appreciate those two brothers a lot. But yeah, I was really trying to get those documents under seal. I was trying to see, you know what I'm saying, if anybody had any extra copies or whatever, you know what I'm saying, that I could get. Because like right now it ain't.
Yeah.
What I'll do is reach out to me, email, and I'll get you in touch with the brother who can assist you in that.
Okay.
Yeah, just hit me in my email, and I'll reply back with him included in the reply, and that way you two can start your dialogue.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that, I mean
to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's all I wanted to say. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
brother.
Jeannie, did you have a question?
No, I don't have a question.
All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments that I might have missed? I'm seeing all the emails come in. I heard that silence in there.
This is Brother Aleph.
Yes, Brother Aleph.
Okay, I just want to add to, this as well, for the people that's really trying to learn more and get into this. When I first, the situation with my child, matter of fact, I reached out to Toriano at the time when I was in the hospital. When I first entered the hospital, Toriano then forwarded me to Brother Antoine, who I spoke to Brother Antoine right before my child was born in the hospital. And then from there, with the knowledge that I had, because I was still brand new into all this, the Moors science, and gave me some words of advice. They both told me basically the same thing: what documents to have. I carry a briefcase with me with my documents. I have copies. I have certified copies, and I take those with me. And with that being said, when I went in there and after my child was delivered, went in there confidently and spoke to those people. Now I'll say this, along with that, this is why I give much respect to, Sister Allie too. I can't forget Sister Allie too. Very knowledgeable sister. Is there sisters in the group that you want to learn with a strong sister who has a high knack for retaining information and knows this? Reach out to Allie West. She is amazing as well. That being said, not only did this process help me out with that, but the bond helped me with a case as well, trying to give me 7 to 10 years. And I tell you like this, I fought a case for 2 years. The weekend before I was supposed to go to trial, I put the bond in the court case. I put in the envelope, matter of fact, and I put in the judge's mailbox inside the court administrator's office. That next Monday morning, I called in before court, and they said, what court case? That court was dismissed. So I said, you know what? Yeah, let me have that. I need to come down and get a copy of that. They said, we can give a copy of the transcript today, but the official paperwork won't. It'll take about a week. Okay, I need a copy of that right now, and then I'll come back down to the records department and get the rest of it. That being said, I don't want to hold the floor too much longer, but I will say this. Appreciate you. I call him Chief. I know he doesn't he doesn't try to hold on to those titles or maybe even recognize them, but I call him Chief Master Chief because of the knowledge that he has. I'm not trying to downplay anybody else because all you brothers, you have your head on straight, you have the knowledge, you have the science behind these things, but this guy is masterful in what he's done. So I give him much credit and I appreciate him. I have gratitude to the highest, the creator and creators of this, the heaven and earth. And also, again, too, with the other brothers, Chief is busy a lot of times, but another brother that's, again, well-versed in all this and has knowledge on this almost on the same level as Chief is Brother Antoine Bey. These brothers, they know it very well, so I appreciate both of them for helping me out in the situations that I've been in and the support. And they're always there no matter what, no matter how busy they are. So I would like to let them know that I'm grateful for them brothers, along with Ali West as well. I'm grateful for you, and I'm glad that we had this build today. I appreciate everybody on this phone call. I love you all. Peace and love.
Peace and love, family. Gratitude.
I love.
Peace and love, brother.
All right. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for being here and everybody for adding in. I think this is a great conversation. A lot of information for people to dissect through, but my belief with that is, man, you guys put a lot of information out there and people have to use that tool that they put out there called Google. It works. You know what I'm saying? You put your fingers to the work and you type in the thing that was said, and guess what? Answers come up. Certain thing. You go to a library and you look for a book, and guess what? The book is there. So I hope this is this podcast can be more so of a navigation tool for a lot of people who listen to it. Also, I just want to applaud the love here. Just the fact that we have so many people here and all on this kind of the same wavelength and all trying to do positive things and all trying to get ourselves in the right status and create the nation that should be here and create the love that should be here is paramount. I know we talked a lot about jurisdiction, and we talked a lot about getting yourself in the right status. And I have to also say this, with all that comes, and I know a lot of people said this, he said civics was first. Eliyahu, I think you said the Constitution, and I tell people all the time, the first thing you should start with too is in the mirror. You got to get your heart right. You got to get yourself right. You got to be walking in the right way, in the right language. You can't be out here disrespecting people. You can't be out here claiming that you're holding the light, but out here, flame torching people. It's levels to this. So I feel like you really have to hone into yourself and get yourself into that right spirit, moving your higher self and not your lower self. So with that being said, if anybody else have anything else to say, I want everybody to give a big peace and a good love and a good bonsai to everybody. And I want to thank
Brother Corey. Can you make sure that are you going to send the recording out to the mailing list?
Yes. I got all y'all emails coming in. I'm saving them all. I'm saving the chat. I got it all. As long as I got the people who were talking, I got all y'all consent to send it all. I will send it to everybody who sent me an email.
Yes, you do. This is ObaShango-El. You have my consent. Brother Eliyahu, thank you. I enjoyed the dialogue. And man, I can't wait till you and the Blood Right Air of Illinois Territory meet. And I can see good things in the future, man.
Most definitely. Appreciate you.
Not a problem.
Peace and love, everybody. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love, everyone.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
All right.
Peace and love, nobles.
Peace and love. I say.
Peace and love, y'all.
All right. That is the MAP podcast. That was a good one. I'm loving that one. I'm loving it. Thank you.